Hello there, YouTube. How are you all doing? Yep, I know it's not my normal day, but fuck it, why not? So I thought I'd do a good old cat's dream. I've got a little bit of housekeeping to go through at the end, but I'll do that at the end with a little bit of a closing statement, as we would normally do for final words. As you can see, I have my good friend Ogre with me today. How are you doing, sir?
All right. Well, it probably looks like Brett Kavanaugh, but I'm gonna let Brett Kavanaugh stand in for me. I'm having some technical difficulties here at the Ogre Cave, and so therefore I don't have access to a camera at the moment. But I think Brett will be a suitable stand-in.
Absolutely no problem. I have no problem with Brett Kavanaugh unless he's talking about the Fourth Amendment.
or the sixth, or yes. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not in love with it. I'm not totally in love with the guy. I haven't said a lot about how I feel about him because he was getting so much stuff thrown at him. But fact of the matter is, he's just another conservative stuffed shirt that starts talking about how much he loves the Constitution when deep down inside he only loves it when it agrees with him.
As most of us do, unfortunately. I think that's the reason why some of us, especially myself, and that's the reason why I had to issue an apology, is that we do get quite dogmatic in our views. The only reason why I just want to clarify, I don't think I clarified it too much on the video, to be fair. The reason why I'm apologizing is not because I thought that Cult of Ham or Blue Liberal actually had a point when he was bringing this up, because the whole issue that we were talking and debating about was the fact of the accusations that were to stop Brett Kavanaugh from becoming Supreme Justice. Nothing to do with his other political views. Now, if we did talk about his political views, which I said in a video, I agree with him, and I did agree with him, that there's probably the reasons why he shouldn't have been. But that was neither here or there. I wanted to defend a man that was falsely being accused of rape, which, believe it or not, we have some statistics on forced rape. I believe that's around about the third or fourth story. Stay tuned for that. Now, that will be very, very interesting. Because not even me that's going to be forcing any fake statistics or anything like that is actually from the Washington Examiner that's actually producing it. So, yay!
Yay. Mercy sake.
I can't help it. You know what I'm like. Just good old little fashioned gayness.
Yes,
but in the old sense, funny. As in happiness.
Yes.
I'm going to quickly get Mr. Crumplepoint on as well. As I can see, Mr. Crumplepoint has asked for a link in the description box, like I'm doing a video in the live chat. So that should be quite interesting. So I'm going to send him a quick link, and then we'll get on with the first story, which is a sharknado. And then hopefully we'll get through that.
I was like, man, they got to sensationalize everything, don't they?
It's interesting how the titles are being sensationalized. Yes, I mean the actual points that they actually bring up are quite interesting, to be fair, because generally when there is a high storm surge, you are going to get some fish and some stuff like that are way inland, even to the point of having sea lions and seals and whatever else is around in that local area. So if you have that in a local area, guess where they're going to go?
Well, here's what's funny to me. When I first saw this story today, is a couple things. Number one, Hurricane Michael shark warnings is 160 mile per hour winds, folks. Now, I've been in some hellacious storms. Mrs. Ogre and I have weathered 135 mile an hour sustained wind storms in North Carolina, and then one very close to that in Florida itself. And let me tell you something. I can't imagine 160. So let me just say that's bad enough. But then it says, the send killer beast to Florida. But if you keep reading in this, it actually says that fishermen are warning this could happen.
Yeah.
And of course it could happen, but here's what killed me, common sense. And I'll because I mean, it's funny. I lived around this area, close enough to say around this area for a long time. When you get a storm surge like this, they should be telling people about gators, bro, right now, because people that grow up in Florida, they're used to seeing gators from time to time. These are what, for lack of a better word, common sense, I'll call them community gators. These are gators that grew up in their community around people and dogs and shit. Yeah. When you get a storm like this, gators get pushed around that have been out in the swamp their whole life, brother. They ain't never seen your Pomeranian. They have never seen your 13-year-old daughter. And when they do see those two things, they look like food. And so Yeah, so if anything, they should be kind of warning people about this in a place where folks are desensitized to the alligator. But no, they gotta maybe sharks will be okay. All right.
To be fair, you make an actually really good point on that because if you do, as you quite rightly have pointed out, that you do have a lot of gator out there, then it doesn't really matter to a gator if the water is saltwater or freshwater
No,
because it doesn't fucking breathe the water. It only
thank
eats
you.
what's fucking in it.
Thank you. Thank you. And they're not pointing that out either, are they? Common sense. I was going to get to that, but I thought I made a couple of good points. That's the third most important point is only a bull shark can live in something brackish or fresh. A
Yeah.
damn, and what else is there? Lemon sharks. I mean, if for some unreal circumstance there was a great white in the Gulf, which is a few, but they like cold waters, not many, and it got blown up in there, it wouldn't have. I mean, goodness gracious, it
I
wouldn't have
thought they
10
like
minutes.
warm waters. If they go into cold waters, they kind of shut down.
No, they love cold water. You can check it out. That's why it's you see
Oh
them
yeah,
all
no, no,
over in
you're
California
completely
and
and
you
utterly
don't see them.
correct. You're completely and utterly correct. I am completely and utterly mistaken because I
Oh, it's not
remember watching Spy Kids where the water was completely and utterly cold and the kid pissed in it, and because of the pissing in it, it changed the temperature and it woke him up.
big.
I remember now.
Hey, Crumple Point, what's up? We're talking about the insane ideas that Hurricane Michael is blowing sharks in dangerous numbers, or possibly, I'm sorry, possibly,
Yeah.
regardless of the big fear-inducing headline, it does go on to say later that it's possibly doing this thing. How are you doing?
Oh, hello everyone. I'm all right, or I was until I heard that uh, news. Are we calling this news? Is this news? Is it
Well,
the onion?
It's
technically,
definitely very, very topical as it's to do with the hurricane. Even though it's a little bit funny or a little bit of a joke sort of a point, it is from the Daily Star in the UK, so
yes.
that they don't really have too much invested in it, so they can take the Mickey, so to speak.
Oh yeah,
But
no. See, this is the thing. The Red Tops papers over here. Yeah, okay, they're full of shit a lot of the time, but at least they do these joke stories, and then like the Guardian or something will flip out, or they'll have it on the BBC. People flipping out over these stories, and then you're sitting like, this is a joke.
yeah,
Like they do this all the time. So yes, is this a? I think this is a nod to Sharknado, is it?
it is. That's
Uh,
the title, and Ogre's going to have to take responsibility for that title because it was him that come up with
well, it's the
it.
first thing I thought is like, man, the only reason this is flying right now is because there are probably somewhere close to 6 million kids in Florida laughing their ass off, as we speak about Sharknado hitting the,
Yeah.
Panama.
Oh no, wait. If it's Florida, this is a completely plausible story then, because Florida's mental.
Florida is mental. Yeah, it's not as bad as California, but Florida is quite mental.
Oh, I think it's in a lot of ways it's worse. And here's what I mean by that. It's worse for the people that live there that are normal. Because if you could drive just outside of Orlando, Florida, to say Geneva, look it up. There's a Geneva, Florida, or even to a lesser degree, Deltona,
Yeah,
or D-Land, or one of these outlying places, you'll come into contact with people that actually have Southern accents, like they're from the South. People that I don't know how else to say it. Let me wrap it up this way before I start calling people hicks and hillbillies. Rugged people from the land, and then I mean juxtaposed to the cities. And my goodness, where they're just as bad as any California city. That's unreal. I mean, how can you tell somebody in Plant City, Florida, that they can't have a shotgun when you live in Orlando? You don't need one in Orlando. It's paved for like freaking probably thousands of square miles are just paved. There's hardly any grass there. Temperature's 15 degrees hotter in the summer because of it.
yeah.
I'll ramble on. I hate Florida. Florida is the dick of America. If you look at it, it looks like a penis hanging
Yeah,
down there, and that's what it is to me.
a flaccidness of fucking America.
Yeah, it's a
It's
droopy
it's
dingus.
funny what you say about and I say this as a compliment, the rednecks versus the, you know, traditional idea of a Floridian, because I remember. Have you seen the TV show Justified, Ogre, or Common Sense for that matter?
No, I have not.
No,
I learned so much about America from this show because it's like a cop drama, but they set it in rural Kentucky because they were like, to hell with all this New York yet again. stories. So they had it in rural Kentucky, but it's really authentic. And I learned so much about America from this show because they actually took the time to show you what the Midwest is like. And so the bad guys in it aren't like the cartel or 50 Cent. It's the Dixie Mafia and everything. But one thing they did was what you're saying about Florida. They highlighted the fact that there's a lot more to Florida than just these sort of beach places. And there's a way that he tracks these guys in the story, where he tracks them because he finds an alligator tooth, and he knows that like it's got a necklace strand in it or something, and he's like, oh, that's a poacher, and he knows that like the poachers and their lifestyle, and so he goes down to Florida and catches them. And it's like you learn so much in this story about what America's like actually got in it, rather than just cities.
Yeah, that's why we have the electoral college too. Most people can't understand that, but you don't. It's hard to. It's really, you're talking about changing the Senate. No, I'm gonna get way off topic. Anyway, very good points. Well, I've been thinking about all this shit today, and then whenever I think about Florida, it's like, yeah, these are the kind of morons that would say it's not democratic when you have a Senate with 2 from each state. No shit, moron. We didn't. We were more like you all. I don't know if you know this, boys, but before, I want to say 1918, somewhere around in there, early 1900s, before 1920, no citizen of the United States voted on their senator. The House voted on the senators. They picked so see what I mean? So it was more like the way you all have, which with all due respect is a more sensible way. You don't want the fucking angry, milling, rucky mob voting on the prime minister. You allow the MPs to vote on the prime ministers. And then that's just one more degree of separation from the mob.
That sounds a little bit like the House of Lords, though, and they've got out of hand, so there must be a happy medium, surely.
I absolutely have to. I have to agree with Ogre on this one, and kind of disagree with you on this couple point, because if you look actually at the Electoral College and you look at it from a non-partisan eye, you can see that it gives more power to the rural areas that have less of a population, that would have different meanings and different points and different electoral needs than what major cities and major areas would be voting on.
Oh no, I agree with that.
Well, what it guarantees is if there is a landslide, is what's common sense. I'm only agreeing with him. If there is a landslide in the rural and the hinterland, there's a hinterland slide. That means it's just as important as if there is a metropolitan landslide. It does not matter. If there's a hinterland slide, you need to have a super majority in the metropolis, and vice versa. Man, that's anybody that can't see that that's fair. There's so many people. I'd like to name some names, but go back and forth with some of my old friends. They get so angry about this. I just want my vote to count as much as yours. It does. Be logical. It does.
But that's the thing, though. Everybody moans about the idea of democracy. Everybody literally complains about how the British system works, how the European system works, how the European countries that have this democratic selection and process works. But yet when it comes to America and how they have done it, so it doesn't matter how many people are in set states. It matters about the majority in the states rule over what's going on. That's more democratic than what it is for one person, one vote. Because if you have 10 people and 6 of them are rich and 4 of you are poor, and 4 of you want to have better working conditions, but 6 of you don't, guess what way it's going to go? Every time. Well, if you make it more even, like you do with an electoral college, then it's a case of they don't have that power of having more numbers. It's a case of they have to convince the other states to actually, or the other 4 people, to vote the same way as them. It then becomes more democratic because you have to include everybody rather than just going to the metropolis or metropoli and actually just getting their vote. It doesn't. That's the reason. You only need 4 cities, to be able to win a majority in actual voting capabilities in America. It's weird.
Chicago, New York, San Francisco, and LA.
That baffles me, by the way, that people, they complain about the Electoral College, and maybe they raise good points. Let's just say they've somehow managed to raise a good point about it. But then you go, yeah, but your alternative is 4 cities decide the fate of the whole country. That is a astoundingly dystopian. And
Yes.
you can tell how far gone somebody is politically, and sadly this is getting more and more people, especially in the UK, when they can only think in terms of centralisation. Like,
Yes.
they'll go on about the Electoral College as if it's any of their business, and
Like
moan
we are.
about it, Trump. And it's like, do you not understand that America has a far greater separation, or, on paper, should have far greater separation of powers than we do over here? Like,
Oh,
it's
much so.
50 states. It's not 50 counties. It's 50
Mm-hmm.
states in a union. It shouldn't. It's far too centralized. Well, Ogre will probably go off on one if I keep on down this route. But it's so centralized already, and you're wanting it to run like our government. It's comparing apples and oranges. It
Yeah.
doesn't work that way.
Well, and
And
here's another big thing is. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were wrapping up.
I was just going to say, you see it with the EU argument as well. They just want everything centralized, and they don't actually care. And America has a very human system, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we haven't always been the United States of America.
Very, very quickly, because I just wanted to make a quick comparison what you just did. Everybody moans about the European system because it's too federalized. You're literally talking about giving the power to the federal government to be able to sort things out democratically. You have to remember that's the reason why your founding fathers, as an American, wrote the Constitution. So it wasn't in the hands of bureaucrats. So there was different degrees of separation in the actual point. So one could be held to account by the other layer, and the other layer could hold the other layer accountable. That way, everything has to be, and actually has a process that can actually be held accountable for. Democracy can't. Who can hold our prime minister to account? Nobody. Not unless she literally breaks the law if she hasn't already made it. The only people that can hold her to account are her party. And let's be honest, they're not doing that. Everybody else wants her to go, but yet nobody can do anything about it. Sorry, Ogo, please carry on.
Oh, no. My point's getting a little faded now. I just want to remind everybody that when this experiment started out, there weren't 50 states. You had to give a state some incentive. So let me ask you this. When Rhode Island was just Rhode Island and was not part of the United States of America, why wouldn't they want to join league with Canada, or anyone for that matter, or stay their own if they didn't get represented by 2 senators? If their voice then became completely dependent upon how many people they can put in that very, very tiny state. They call it the parking lot for Boston, Rhode Island. Yeah. I've been there many times. I'm telling you, it's not that you can just drive through it in a day. You can drive through the longest part of Rhode Island in 30 minutes. You could walk across Rhode Island in a day. So anyway, that's what we are forgetting. Instead, when you start talking about all this, these states that signed on to this experiment a long time ago, based on they would have a House of Representatives, they're already outweighed. There's your population based. And then the Senate, and the Senate does have a little more power. There's a reason, because once again, you are getting further removed from what we're all talking about here, which is mob rule. The further you can get away, because let's remember, folks, the mob changes their mind on a minute-by-minute basis. Period.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to get enough of a, and I say this, and I'm not really joking as much as I wish I was. I reckon you could probably get several MPs, a couple of senators, all that. Certainly a few councillors to come out against the horror of these shark attacks via tornado. Like, I reckon if you were to make enough of a buzz on Twitter, regardless of the fact it provably is impossible and doesn't exist, you'd get them to make a statement about it anyway, because they do it for everything else.
Climate deniers, Trump's fault.
Yep. I reckon also that the Bowman Shark charities should be on this, because there is as much chance of this happening as a bloody genuine shark attack.
Which is actually very, very limited in scope.
Yeah, and they basically almost always have to be provoked. So if I was working for one of these shark finning charities or shark culling charities, I would have been running with this story. Like, they missed a trick there.
But the thing is, this story is going to be turned into a conservation effort anyway, especially the Sharknado story. Whatever beasts and fishes ended up coming up onto the shore, I'm sure there'll be a couple of beasts that nobody's ever seen before, and there'll be a monster story at some point coming out again. But it will be a conservation story. We have to save the sharks. We have to save this. We have to save that. And don't get me wrong, I agree that we probably do have to save some of them. But the point is that you're not going to be able to because, first of all, there's sharks that are going into fresh water. And before anybody goes, well, no, it's going to come up with salt water first. As soon as it starts hitting the mud and as soon as it starts hitting the other things, the salt gets completely and utterly taken out. So it turns into fresh water nigh on.
Yep.
So for people that are going to say, oh, but they can live for a couple of days. No, they can't.
No. And besides that, I mean, to get pushed up on the shore, I hate to break anybody's bubble, this is not an indestructible animal. That would be some tremendous trauma, man. Who knows, the shark is going to be in a people-eating mood at that point.
Yeah.
well, also
fucking hungry.
Common Sense Guy and I have to apologize to you, Ogre, because Hurricane Michael is our fault. Because we voted for Brexit.
Lord, you bastards.
It means that Hurricane Michael is our fault.
You hate children. You hate little children and sharks alike. That's incredibly evil of you, Brits. Now, not to get off, but we got off in one, and we got another story after this that's so similar with the skull thing. We might as well. I mean, speaking of everything is your fault, now it's Hungary's fault too, because you got that guy with the girl's name in the middle of his like 7 names. That's like going on this tirade about how the dude from Hungary isn't speaking for his people and that they're a longer legacy than him and this and that. And he's just sitting there looking like he's not even really looking at the dude. But did y'all see that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, he's talking about Viktor Orban, the Hungarian president. He's talking about Viktor Orban, the Hungarian president at this moment in time, saying that because I've done a video. Well, did I do a video? I probably didn't. I've talked about it though. But because he's come out and he said that he wants to lower the actual age of the federal judges or equivalency of in Hungary from 70 to 65, apparently that's a breach of human rights because he's doing that solely because that he wants to get rid of the Europhiles rather than having Eurosceptics on. Because apparently that's against democracy to lower the retiring age, which is in accordance with the rest of Europe, which is 65 for a man to retire generally.
They're angry because dude man walked into the room, seen Angela Merkel over by the punch bowl at the party, strolled over there, finger banged her in front of everybody, and then strolled out of the room while smelling said fingers, laughing. And they're so angry about that this is a little revenge, I think, because it just pissed it. The immigration thing, you forget about it. Forget it.
We at the Common Sense Guide channel do not condone finger banging rape.
No, neither do I. I was just saying that's what it kind of looked like he did. And I just always try to remember that there are funny jokes of all kinds. But anyway. Yeah, so we got a good story coming up. But anyway, I thought I'd throw that in there because the look, this was the comedy, boys. When I'm watching that transpire today, it looked to me the Hungarian fella, I would have given $1,000 to see just a strip to the waist, oiled up, no holds barred for 5 minutes with the guy that was speaking. They was like dogging him and calling him a dummy and shit, saying these people didn't agree with him. Would have been beautiful.
Didn't he get voted in by 63% of the population?
Hell yeah. It was upwards. I thought it was 68, but it was up there. Yes, the people love him. Yeah.
The thing is, I love it when people from the European Union go, "Oh, you're not democratically elected. You mean because I'm not left-leaning, and you think that somehow the Russians have got involved to help this happen?" And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of problem with the fucking Russians and the government. I have a lot of problems with them, but they're not the fucking boogeyman. They don't do fucking everything.
No,
every time China. I think. Well, yes. Every time I think of Russia being called evil and stuff, gentlemen, I remember I love Herman Melville, Bowery Boys, of course, Moby Dick. And in Moby Dick, when he's talking about the Russians, he calls them the great other America that speaks a different language. And when has it changed that much? Not really. So, yeah, I don't agree with everything they do either. But making them the boogeyman, no, that's China.
I think if you want to know what China is up to, look at what they're accusing Russia of, and then go and watch the Chinese state media bragging about them doing it. And then secondly, I think that just as a side note, I really hate the way people talk about the Russians over here because it's like we really can't fathom the decades of absolute just terror those people lived under. And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe they're a bit, I don't know, I don't want to use the word backward, but maybe they're a bit behind, or maybe they're catching up a bit, or maybe they've formed their state a bit strangely compared to ours. It's like, but they're doing bloody well. I mean, uh, Putin has done some bloody awful things, I know that, but he's also managed to get essentially an insane country to actually become a country again. And it's like, you can't just interfere, because I see when we accuse Russia of all this interference and stuff like that, I see that as interference in their country because it's like if they get any media of ours, all they're getting is these false accusations about their president, and
Do you
it's
know?
this
Do you know
this would
what I
go for
really?
Putin and the Hungarian. Sorry, I'll go
Yeah, it's
ahead,
fine.
Colin.
It's fine. Do you know what I really hate about everybody that goes, "Oh, the Russians interfered with this election and that election"? What
What?
about the English and the Americans and have interfered in almost every single Middle Eastern and Middle Eastern country
Yeah.
in their election and their propaganda?
And
Does
then
that
they're
not
fucking
count?
going and bombing them out of it. Oh, yeah. What about
Exactly.
that?
Exactly.
Oh, in
Doesn't that
Ukraine,
count?
nobody talks about Ukraine anymore. The country that's run by literal Nazis that were put there by
For whatever
essentially an
reason.
EU-backed putsch.
Yeah.
Man, for a couple hundred years, you pull some shit, and they didn't like it, and it was Great Britain. They fucking sent their ships and would fucking annihilate you. If they couldn't reach you with the long guns of the ships, they would send the redcoats in to rape your fucking women, burn your shit down, and set you back to order. And that's the way the United States does it now. And to hear him talk about that, it really does make me sick, boys. Love my country. Love my country. But you can't go overthrow Muammar Gaddafi in his own fucking country. Saddam Hussein, the list goes on, set up the mullahs, all the shit we've done. You can't do all that and then start crying about somebody sending some trolls, man. Isn't that stupid? Doesn't that make you
Well,
look stupid?
I have to completely not agree with you. I mean, I don't agree on everything that you said. I mean, we can get into
Yeah.
semantics at another point, but the premise is the same though. It is a case of people countries going in and trying to take over other countries by force, by fucking force. And then you have possibly, maybe, possibly might have happened Russia interfering with certain elections, or maybe Brexit, or maybe the French election, maybe, fucking maybe. And they all moan about Russia interfering. It's like, well, do you not think that the CIA, the MI5, the MI6 are doing exactly the same fucking thing in other countries?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is there's a fantastic channel I watch called China Uncensored, and the Chinese did everything the Russians are accused of by basically manufacturing microchips into all the servers of all the state computers in America.
Yep.
Because nobody uses IBM anymore because they actually charge, first world prices and first world wages and shit like that. So they use Chinese servers, and the Chinese government demand that these rice grain sized microchips be put into
That's
them.
funny too.
It's
That's
a
ironic.
hard hack as well. It's not a software hack. It's a hardware hack, so it's built in.
I mean, it's ironic that IBM turns out to be the good guys. What would I, as a Jew, think of when I think of IBM, boys? Is it just common knowledge, or only Jews think of that first? They did the punch card system for the Nazis. They invented the punch card system to help the Nazis keep track of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes. Yeah.
So,
well,
but
Ogre, I found out an interesting thing, by the way. You are Jewish, but you're 1/8 Scottish?
Yes, my mother's father's Scottish.
I am Scottish, but I'm 1/8 Jewish.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
Oh,
I looked back one of my family members, and the last name is Jewish, and it would count as an 8th. I'm the mirror of Ogre.
Yeah, if one of your grandparents would have been Jewish, that would get you an 8 there in your bloodline. Or that it goes deeper now. You could have more further back that would also give you a certain amount of bloodline. I did my DNA thing. I'm not going to say what it is on air completely, but it is mostly Ashkenazi and then Scottish. But there's other things in there that I was like, wow, it's like I don't even remember either. But no sub-Saharan African. That's kind of what I was hoping for, because then I could legally put African American on any kind of forms. I'm not kidding. That's why I did it, because a lot of people have some sub-Saharan African, And if you got, if you're, I don't care what it is, if you got 6% sub-Saharan African, in other words, if you look at someone, they would not have any kind of Negroid characteristics. And yes, that's a fucking sign. I don't know how else to say it. So if that didn't sound, if that was offensive, I wasn't trying to be. But
It's fine.
No, that's the biological category.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I'm just trying to think of it. But anyway, I already made a rape joke, so I'm trying to be careful now. What I'm trying to say is that if you got any in you in the United States, any form, Crumple Point, you dig it? You can see how that would be an advantage. Why would I want to be able to put I'm African American on a form legally? It wouldn't be just for a joke. I could, man, there's so many programs, so many assistants, there's so many things.
So many scholarships that you could do for free and things like that.
You know something interesting? I bet you they would not allow, say Conscious Caracal moved over and had a kid. I bet you they wouldn't allow his kid to say they were African American.
He's African American. And how do I know that? I went to ministers. I went to actually intense 1 semester course from Andrews University with a guy from just say his last name, Busel. He was born in Africa to Americans that were there as missionaries, and he and his brother, he moved back there. He can't stand it here. Guys slept on the freaking ground.
But they did get the African American status.
He checked African American on everything.
Oh, that's good.
And he showed me everything, and he would challenge somebody. He would say, and he looked at it. I was there. Now when I say that, I'm getting riled up, but he never did. This was a guy that looked like Brad Pitt and was smooth as buttered toast, man. The guy was just smooth as silk. But he would make the point vehemently to black people that were from America, because they're the only ones that put African in front of their country. When's the last time you met a black bloke from where you're at, Crumble Point, and it's like, oh, I'm African, Scottish, or whatever? They don't say that.
No.
Who says that? Anyway, I'm getting off on a real tangent now, but
no, I'm glad I know that though, because I had wondered about that a while ago. If the
Buse will take a shit on you if you said he wasn't African American. He was born. He had malaria like 6 times, damn near died. He knows how to barter his way through checkpoints, just like the blackest African from darkest daggone. He knows what he's doing there. That's his country. He speaks.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad.
He actually speaks like 6, 7 different languages. He does the thing. Boom. I mean, there's. African people are amazing, some of them, and some of the most amazing are the white people, because it's so hard to make it on that continent if you're white. I will not shut up about it.
Noticed. Now that you won't be shutting up, oh come on, that's it. Thank you. Now that you have been a little bit quieter on it, should we go on to the actual story of forced rape?
Well, I would like to pose a question to you both first about the story. With the guy getting rid of these judges, hypothetically, because he knows it'll tilt the vote his way, right? Hypothetically, like it might not work, but let's say that was a certainty.
Oh, you mean Viktor Orban, right? Yeah.
Yeah, let's say hypothetically that is a certainty. If he cuts off this age, the majority become Eurosceptic. Now, would you guys say that it's appropriate because he sees it as essential for the country, and so he will do this slightly dodgy tactic to get rid of a few people for the good of the country? Or should principle come first, and he should go, right, okay, these guys politically don't align with me, and it is a rough time for the country, but this is not a reason to lie about a policy? Which way would you guys say?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to point out that 65 is considered to be the actual legal age for most countries. I think it's around 70 to 80% of countries to have their retirement. For instance, France is 65, Germany is 65, Austria is 65, Holland is 65, the UK in general completely and utterly is 65. To me, it sounds like he's just forming in line with the rest of the European Union. It's the European Union that has a problem with him doing that and lowering the age, because they perceive it to be done for that reason. It may be done for that reason, but all he's doing is following what it is for the rest of the country. I don't see a problem with it. Sorry, the rest of Europe. I don't see a problem with it.
I would say that if it's some kind of scandalous thing, I already said it. I think it's a second, err on the side of especially when you're a leader like that. Err, and especially when you're a righteous leader like that. So then always err on the side of righteousness. And I would say the righteous thing for him to do right now. And no, don't try to make this anything Christian, you morons. Common sense knows what I'm talking about. The righteous thing for the guy to do right now, in my opinion, would be, hey, change their mind, let them die out, whatever. Let that thing change in another way at another time when it wasn't so contentious. But that's, that's it. Let him stay. He's doing everything else right anyway. Yeah, what is this? This other thing has got me though. Common sense. Break this out. This next story.
Yes, this will definitely be fucking interesting. It was a good enough answer from both of us, Crumple Point, because we do have time, so it's okay.
Well, just you corrected me on the detail of the story, and I'm glad you did. But would you rather the job got done, or is the principle more important?
The job will get done by anybody that's going to take over. The thing is, for me, is that you can't. This is an EU directive, by the way, that was also directed for people to lower the age of retirement to 65. You can't ask somebody to lower the age to 65 on the retirement as a directive, and then because it completely affects you politically, you moan at them for doing what you've asked them to do.
Okay, yeah.
That's just my opinion on it. The reason why they're picking on him specifically is because they know that the judges that they've got lined up, most of them are Eurosceptics. The ones that he already has are the only ones that are trying to fight for the European Union. Because everybody else is sick and tired of the European Union. They were the only ones that were against putting up a wall or a fence around Hungary to stop people from traveling from Austria and so on and so forth from actually going through it. And they were against it. And yet they don't have any terrorist attacks whatsoever. No terrorist attacks from a Muslim origin. None whatsoever. Same as Poland.
That Polish foreign minister, I think he was, his speech on that news channel was brilliant.
Yeah, I completely not agree with you. And that's the reason why they were attacking them. To the point of, I believe the last time with Viktor Orban and Hungary, the fact is that they were actually going to sanction them so much that they're actually going to stop paying them money, even though they are forcing Hungary to pay into the European Union to get subsidies back for it. And the European Union are going to stop paying them their subsidies because of sanctions that they're placing on them because they're being undemocratic. Even though this Viktor Orban was actually elected on a policy and manifesto that stated that he was going to do everything he's done.
Yeah, I also think that with this particular scenario with the Poles and the Hungarians,
It's
not just them. You've got the Czech Republic as well. You've also got
Czech Republic's an interesting one actually. But anyway, I won't because I know you guys are wanting to get on the next story, so I won't go all conspiracy not on you about the Czechs. But
no, go ahead. I mean, whatever.
The Poles and the Hungarians. I think that the reason that the Brits and more liberal Americans look down their nose at those speeches and things is actually because they wish that our politicians sounded like that, and they know it will never happen. Like, when was the last time you heard anyone who was above the most obscure backbencher make a speech like that?
Donald Trump.
It just doesn't happen. Well, that's a good point. That is a very good point. The Americans are better off than the Brits in that regard. But like, I was like, that's the foreign minister. Holy shit, that's brilliant.
Got Kane West up in there just hugging him and kissing him, talking about Trump kicks ass. He said there ain't no racism. He said racism is an invisible wall. I tell you what, the guy, anyway.
Kanye West is actually really an interesting person, even though he did say motherfucker in the White House.
And more than I don't really care about that common sense.
No, I was trying to make him funny.
Here, he makes some of the most awesome points, and then to guys like you and I that kind of disdain religion being brought into logical discussions, he'll go off on this. I mean, he'll say the most amazing thing, and then he starts talking about what he believes. You dig it? If you understand what I'm saying, you can see him do it today in today's speech. I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow y'all. I felt out of place with the last conversation, so I guess I wanted to bring up something I knew about. Sorry.
No, I quite actually like Kanye West. I think he's over. I heard on Twitter today. In actual fact, because I'm a bit annoyed about this. So now you can see me. I was speaking on Twitter with somebody. RPR will actually know the exact woman who I'm talking about. She tweeted out, "Can somebody put a dick in Kanye's mouth so he can stop talking?"
Damn.
Now, that's exactly what this woman.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, that is fucked up. That's exactly what she said.
Sexual assault.
I obviously made a little bit of a tweet for it. I'm just trying to see if I can get back
You
to the
think
actual
when
tweet.
it came to a powerful black businessman that made himself a millionaire from the scum hole of Chicago, you think that they'd have a little bit more je ne sais, what is it? I don't know. Yeah, a little more finesse, a little more finesse too with that.
Yeah.
Then they come out and basically put a penis in his mouth. That's disgusting. Who would say that?
Well, I'm obviously made a tweet about this. Yeah, I obviously made a tweet about this. I put, wait, if someone said this about a woman, you'd all claim them sexist, misogynist with toxic masculinity.
Yes,
Why is it okay for you to say it to a man? Does this mean you want someone to sexually assault him?
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, they love sexual assault. You see it.
Filthy that's what I said to her. Nobody's actually made any comment on that whatsoever. I didn't think they would.
Oh, I ain't gonna touch that one. You can't respond to stuff like that with anything. If you got a response, common sense, it'd be something like, "Fuck you, you racist," and that would be it.
I think it's interesting. People have these real obsessions with narratives and right and wrong and good guys and bad guys when it comes to history and politics these days. And I was trying to get my head around the Kanye West thing because a lot of people were like, "Well, is it a publicity stunt or is he genuine or what?" And I was like, it is possible that he doesn't know yet and that he's kind of just going on a little journey. Because if you look back to when they had him sectioned by what I would say would be illegally, for the Trump speech he gave at his gig, and they pulled him off stage. People forget about that one.
No, I haven't.
That was horrendous to watch. Like I was unbelievable. And all he was doing was he wasn't even coming out in support of Trump. He was just saying, "Look, the guy won, and you're being ridiculous." And people I know and used to have respect for were basically paid shills for politicians. Which come on, it was Jay-Z, for God's sake.
Yeah.
They're meant to be kind of anti-establishment. And so I think that Kanye West has just had a completely organic experience of he's got liberal friends. He's probably quite liberal himself, but not insane. And he's probably just, from experiences like that and noticing that every time he speaks out against the orthodoxy, he is viciously attacked. He's now realizing, well, maybe this is actually my candidate, if you will. And I don't think he knows yet. I don't think he's arrived at his final conclusion, but it does seem that, okay, he's making some publicity of it. That's his bloody job. But I don't think he has, like, all the answers. And I think the fact that so many people think celebrities have all the answers is really disturbing.
Well, I'm very, very worried about anybody that likes the idea of endorsing anybody that Taylor Swift would fucking endorse, the airhead that she is. But I do actually have to say that I think that this is actual evidence of a liberal person that is being completely and utterly excluded for having a different point of view and is being forced to the right of politics, not necessarily the far right. I just mean that his Overton window, his personal Overton window, is being forced further to the right, going to the centre, and maybe possibly over to a conservative. This is literally what people have said to other people about talking about and calling everybody Nazis. If you keep on calling somebody something and you keep on stopping them from having the conversations, they will find where they can have the conversations where they are not completely and utterly belittled and just called out names for absolutely no reason whatsoever for making a factual point. I honestly do think that watching this with Kanye West is the actual case of somebody literally being forced further to the right on politics because the left are too scared to actually have the conversations that somebody on the left, as he was, wants to have. It makes them uncomfortable, so they make him uncomfortable by having it, and then say he's the one that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it depends on your measure, because you might well still be on the left. I mean, to a lot of people, you would consider Trump a leftist in many areas, not in all areas, but he's a. We've said it before. If it was the 60s, he would be running as a Democrat. But
he wrote a book in the 60s and 70s. He wrote a book in the 60s and 70s. He's been friends with Hillary Clinton and the Clintons for God knows how long.
Yeah.
He's been a lifelong Democrat. When he wrote his book about going into politics, he said, if I ever wanted to win the presidency, I'd run as a Republican. He managed to do that very well, didn't he?
I
Trump.
think that
He also
said,
said he said I run as a Republican because the Republican voters are stupid. I don't know if it's the same quote you're referring to, but there is one where he said the same thing. Trump said I'd run as a Republican because Republican voters are stupid. So I don't know if that's still the case. That's still why he did it. I know one thing. The guy, there's a few people finally coming out that have finally grasped one thing. You can't. Michael Moore was the one I just watched. It was amazing, but it's at least true. He said, you can't he said, stop calling Donald Trump stupid. Stop calling him a moron. You cannot become president, be a moron, and look what he's doing. You can't. Now, Michael Moore doesn't like what he's doing, and he couches everything he says when it's,
they called him, they said he was having a breakdown with that, didn't they?
Well, of course, but it was just like what he was saying.
A breakdown because of saying something as don't call Donald stupid.
Yeah, that's classic communist technique.
Well, and that's because that's where this kind of started in a way where we're saying that, Guyan was up on the stage and they were talking about getting him mental examination because he has an opinion that but by the way, millions of other people have too. So they have to do this publicly because if they don't, then if they do, excuse me, let's start with what they do. If they do, they can say that there's an entire swath of humanity is also a little touched in the head, and that's the motive. That's the idea.
I completely agree with that.
By association is the last story for today, and it's a doozy, and you can take that into any point that you would like to take it, because guilt by association is becoming more and more current. Just for having a political view, you're now going to be associated with the worst of the people that have those views.
Well, could I make a quick point before we move on, and it will be my last point. The thing with the Republicans, I think Trump ran as a Republican because he knew that there was no realistic Republican candidate. And I know everybody will say, oh, Ted Cruz and Ben Carson. No, they weren't. The Republican voters have been shafted by Republicans for decades. Like, look at people like John McCain and Jeff Flake. They've been shafted by Republicans for so long. And I've noticed this has happened to me. And it might not, I don't want to speak for Ogre, but I think it might have happened with Ogre of like, I unconsciously think of the Republican Party a little more fondly than I did because they're associated with Trump. But they don't like Trump. And I need to remind myself, wait, I don't like the Republican Party. This is the party of Cheney and Rumsfeld and Bush and Bush. I hate them. It's Trump that I kind of like. I don't like the Republicans. And I keep forgetting that.
Man. He's the only reason I like the Republicans. That's the truth.
Yeah. Well, Trey Gowdy and Rand Paul as well. I like them.
Well, there's some Democrats I like also. None come to the top of my head, but I'm sure I could think of some if I tried hard enough. But I mean, the point being, this has been what I've always said. I drove truck for a while, and I'd have, you always meet the young kid at the truck stop while you're doing your laundry. He's doing his laundry beside you, and he's pissed off and he's complaining because he's got to wait too long, and he don't this and this and that and the other thing. And it's always the same, I'm going to get a different job. I'm going to work with a different company. And I would always give this same advice. Listen, if you put all of the trucking companies in a bag and shake them up, reach your hand in there and pull it out, it's the same, brother. One give you a little bit more time home. They'll keep you out longer on the road. One will give you a little bit better health care. It pay you less per mile. It all is going to work out to the same. So the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And this is where we're at right now. I mean, you got a politician. You take all the politicians, all of them. And that's the only reason I was for Trump. And it just so happened. I hear this all the time. I'm going to tell you a little anecdotal story, but my old man voted for Trump. And, he just said, I'm so glad I lived long enough to vote for a president that I really believe is just a guy that's going to try to do best for us, do right by our country. And, a lot of people felt that way. A lot of people still do. I mean, it's not like that's faded too much. But we'll see, man. All this shit. As soon as you don't hear much about it while he's president because, of course, he's so powerful, he covers it up. But as soon as this powerful man that can cover everything up at a whim gets ready to run for president again, they will bring out some other Fords, you know, these Blasey Fords that got nothing to gain, but had 2 Kickstarters. One got over 700,000, the other over 600,000.
Fucking hell. And don't forget the fact of actually getting the scholarship in her name as well.
Yes. Nothing to gain. I imagine she'll never, because she's terrified to fly, I imagine she'll never pay for a first-class ticket again because they'll just give it to her wherever she wants to go on any airline. What do you want to bet? I guarantee you. She calls right now. I'm Christina Blasey Ford. Oh, Mrs. Ford, don't worry about any pay. We're going to upgrade you to first class right up by the captain there, and a big seat in front right next to the exit so you feel nice and comfortable. We don't want you to be afraid of flying. Oh, ye who flew fucking prop jobs island hopping around Hawaii, stealing $600 from your fucking ex-boyfriend's credit card.
You got to read that story after all that then.
Oh man, I've read all kinds of shit on this. Did you listen? This is the most telling thing to me, with all due respect. I'm going to break it down. You talk about toxic masculinity? Get ready. I'm going to spray you with it. Just like a fucking 80s cum shot. Here it comes. Take the side-by-side shot from the year that she says Brett Kavanaugh held her down at an exclusive party and tried to rape her. Take a side-by-side shot. This bespeckled, embraced girl that looked like she never brushed her teeth anyway, that was so ugly. With all due respect, I was a jock in high school. This is how I felt. I'm going to tell you right now. With all due respect, not only wouldn't I force her to do anything, I wouldn't have fucked with her if I just did a kegger. There was no way. I mean, and so that is the most telling thing to me. I don't want to ramble on about it. No, there's my toxic masculinity. There's no way Brett Kavanaugh, held her down and did any of that shit. That's a lie. That's been proven by evidence that it is a lie. Not that
it's proven by lack of evidence.
Well, that's right, but proven by evidence that there is nothing, that this man says it didn't happen and other people corroborate that he wasn't even there. He has a calendar showing he was other place, the whole 9 yards.
No, definitely. I still agree. with
tell him, Brett.
Everybody that Kavanaugh did not rape Blasey Ford. I completely agree that he did not rape her.
No, he didn't kiss her behind. What it is because the other girl came right out and admitted that she asked his buddy. I can't remember his buddy's name right now for some damn reason.
Right, Judge.
Yeah, Judge. She asked Judge. Now, this is a girl that said he did whip Willie out in front of her there and spin the bottle or something to that effect. She said that she asked Judge out on a particular dance night. And he said, yeah, but he got too drunk and didn't remember whatever. Seen him at the thing and he was so wasted, didn't go with her, and he was laughing. Yeah, these girls remember laughter, boys. They remember laughter. Anybody that thinks that it's impossible, that this woman that has nothing to gain, that gained $1.3 million in I don't think they taxed that shit. It's donations like a church. I'm pretty sure they just hand you the fucking money, boys. I'm sorry, boys. You know what? Has anybody? I've been to casinos where they show $1 million sitting there in $100 bills. Anybody ever seen what that looks like?
It's a lot of money, man.
Yeah, it's like your desk. It's a meter by half a meter of $100 bills.
I'm moist.
And she got nothing to gain. Nothing to gain. And besides that, who would ever make up?
They say nothing to gain, right? But like, even let's take all that off the table. Let's say none of that happened. Let's say the media didn't even particularly side with either one of them or whatever, but it was going to do Trump some damage. That would be enough for a lot of these activist types. Like, if you think how many crazy people are in the world, how many of those crazy people are politically motivated, that would be enough. You wouldn't need any financial incentive for these people.
Well, her and her lawyer, never Trumpers. Pussy hat wearing, women's march, never Trumpers. Now, exactly. that alone, I think common sense has some about guilt by association. Does that alone make a difference? No. But when you couple that with everything else to boot, and let's face it, they had the Kavanaugh signs ready before they knew that Kavanaugh was nominated at all. They had stacks of signs that they found in garbage cans the night of the announcement. So they in other words, I think they had 12 or 14 different signs, stacks of them, ready to break them out. It's such a coordinated attack. Thank you so much, George Soros, for making this interesting.
Something like that, yeah.
He's rich. When you're that rich, dude, you donated $16 billion to the comedy fund for a screw you in the ass for eternity.
I know that, mate. I know that. I completely and utterly know that. I just wanted to very, very, very quickly, and I'm sure Mr. Anthony Bryan Logan will not worry too much about what I'm doing at this moment in time, but I wanted to show you all what Hillary Clinton thinks of people that would do false rape. So just give me a couple of seconds and I will try and sort this out as quickly as possible. Oh, twat. Yeah, gotta get the advert out of the way first, though.
Involving Bill Clinton, and to play her tapes of alleged Clinton phone conversations has the look of every married woman's nightmare. Sleek, sexy, a blonde femme fatale.
Yes, I was Bill Clinton's lover for 12 years. And for the past 2 years, I have lied to the press about our relationship to protect him. Sam, if somebody's willing to pay you $130,000 or $170,000 to say something, and you get your 15 minutes of fame, and you get your picture on the front page of every newspaper, and you're some failed cabaret singer who doesn't even have much of a resume to fall back on, and what's there she's lied about. You know, that's the daughter of Willie Horton. As far as I'm concerned, it's the same kind of attempt to keep the real issues of this country out of the mainstream debate where they need to be.
So that's what Hillary Clinton thinks of people that would do false rape claims.
That had the wrong outro. It should have been a.
She still had the faint hint of the Little Rock accent that she affected when she married a.
I was just gonna say she has her outrage accent on, like her.
No, but if you listen, she has like a little twang of Southern accent. The fucked up thing, she's from Chicago, man. Yep. She doesn't. I mean, her way she speaks now isn't even. If you watch, like, you can find just very few out there, but if you watch some old videos of her when she first met Bill, she wasn't putting on any accent. She had like you'd imagine any a suburban girl from the outward edges of Chicago would sound.
It was
like
cringy during the election as well. Like, it was on and off really noticeably, and it was like you could tell it was put on because it didn't sound like it was from anywhere. Like, you couldn't place it. It was just an accent.
Yeah.
Oh, she'll pull that.
That's the reason why I wanted to play that video, so we could do a quick segue onto this actual false reports of sexual assault, not as rare as claims studies show. So obviously the associations from forces against Brett Kavanaugh that false allegations of rape or attempted rape are extremely rare is rebutted by a number of studies. Researchers say liberals on TV and social media said repeatedly during the Senate confirmation process that only 2% of charges are lies, meaning there likely would be truth in the majority of such charges, such as those as Christine Blasey Ford, who accused now Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh of sexually assaulting her 36 years ago. So Brent E. Turvey, I don't know him, but he is a criminologist who wrote a 2017 book that dispels this notion. His research and that of two co-authors cited statistical studies and police crime reports. One academic study showed that as many as 40% of sexual assault charges are false. Mr. Turvey wrote in the FBI in the 1990s a peg of the falsity rate at 8% for rape or attempted rape complaints. There is no shortage of political victims, advocates, and news articles claiming that the nationwide false report for rape and sexual assault is almost non-existent, persisting a figure of around 2%. Mr. Terry, who directs the Forensic Criminology Institutes, so if anybody wants to take up his statistics, he's kind of somebody who directs the forensic criminology industry. So good luck with that. This figure is not only inaccurate, but it also has no basis in reality. Reporting it publicly as a valid frequency rate with any empirical bias is either scientifically negligent, or fraudulent. So I just wanted to quickly go through that. He goes through to cite a couple of studies. One of the studies goes through to the point of saying that between an average of 18% of people from 2019 were saying that there is a forced rape. Rather, they confirmed that there was forced rape, which is interesting. There's also another one going up to 36% as well. And there's another one that goes up to 23%. This is what I found most interesting about this one. The statistics of unfounded cases are contained in an appendix of 3,567 cases last year, and this is 2015 that he does this. Of those, 729 cases were dropped because of insignificant evidence that a crime was committed. Another 79 were deemed unfounded at the command legal review level. The total 808 represents 23% of all cases last year. That's 2 in 10, boys. 2 in 10 that come forward are going to be forced rapes.
Yeah, I mean, I've read this whole thing too. It seems to me that you could safely say that somewhere between, this would be very safe to say, somewhere between 18 and 25% of people that say that they've been raped, forcibly raped, haven't been. And so I don't know. Correlation doesn't show causation. I'm also looking at how that it seems like the trend has gone up in one study. That it was 13% in 2009 and 26% in 2016. So it's like
23% last year in 2017.
Well, you think about it, they're telling kids that there's a rape culture. They're telling kids that 1 in 3 of them is going to be raped. So when they're there and they're not been raped, look, and I know, call me crazy, just bear with me. I'm going to speak from madness, apparently, because not many people are saying this. But when they're looking at people saying they've been raped, everybody's hugging them and kissing them and saying how terrible it is.
Exactly.
Like, well, I want to be raped too, but I don't want to go through the rigmarole of actually being held down and having a penis forcibly thrust into me.
Yes. I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to read this last little bit. It's literally only 2 sentences because I think it's very, very important. Mr. Tovey quotes a study by researcher Edward Gira, past president of the Association of American Law Schools. He traced the one and only source for the 2% assertion to a 1975 book, Against Our Will, Men, Women, and Rape, which quoted the statistic from New York City, not from across the nation. Please go ahead, Counterpoint.
Well, yes, that's a very classic case of tell me what you want to see and I'll get you a statistic. I heard that from a statistician, by the way, who I know.
Exactly, no, it's true. There's always a way of getting a particular result that you want. You can even type it into Google. If you want to find somebody that is saying that Brexit's going to work, you can find statistics for it. If you want somebody to find that somebody's going to say that Brexit's not going to work, you can find statistics for it. So on and so forth. It depends what you want to have as a statistic.
This is why I try and argue on principles rather than like numbers, which sounds like a total cop-out. I'm aware of that. But the thing is that because the statistics are so fucking unreliable and because every place that does statistics has a vested interest, like, you follow up the chain enough and they're either tied to the Tea Party or George Soros, and none of them are impartial, so why do we even bother? Let's just argue the principle. And now, I don't know the numbers for Scotland, but I do talk to a lot of people, and I read local news. And I have seen cases where this is the thing, that people like us get accused of trivializing these cases, and it's actually the opposite. We're the ones that are trying to keep this as serious a crime as it should be treated as, because it turns our stomach when it actually happens. And the idea that you can just make an accusation like that undermines every future woman that will come forward in some small way. Or man, or anyone who will be raped, because everybody from every demographic can potentially be raped.
Let's not forget this, anybody that's against rape, okay? That if you falsely accuse someone, at least in this country, of rape, forcible rape, what you're doing is, if they're convicted that you're, and this is not, I've never been in prison, so I can't tell you this for sure, but this is coming from prison guards, ex-prisoners, it's coming from everybody that's been in the system. You're going to get raped.
Yep.
Somebody's going to get horny enough one day, look at you as like, well, he did it to somebody. There you go.
Well, there's another aspect of it as well that over here, I don't know if it's as much a problem of the rape aspect, but I know that in the British prisons, people do it for drugs. So it's not quite voluntary, but they're sort of doing it semi-voluntarily because they want the drugs. I know that happens. I don't know what the stats are for prison rape in the UK, but I've read a bunch of local news stories, and I've spoken to cops who have told me that they actually keep a lot of the worst stuff out of the news because they don't want to undermine future people, which I think is understandable but wrong, because the truth should come out. But I have seen,
you know what I really find
cases
interesting
of rape where the woman, it was an incestuous relationship, the police found. And what they needed to do was they needed to, like, somebody found out about it, so the woman said that she was raped by the guy. I think it was a cousin. And then there was another instance where it was an affair between a brother and sister-in-law. So not incest, but it was an affair within the family. And the woman, again, said she'd been raped by the guy. And the police in Scotland take the forensic thing, like, really fucking seriously. They will comb every aspect of the case inside out to find out what happened. And it's the police that make these findings, that not only was it false, but there was an affair being had.
Yeah.
And it happens, you know?
Yeah. The thing is that I wanted to point out that even though that we are now talking about forced rape claims, we still somehow have turned to a way of defending people that have come forward. And yes, I will say, in my own defense, first of all, that anybody that comes forward, yes, we should believe them, but they should go for a point of justice. They shouldn't go to a point of a clown court to try and actually just stop somebody from getting a job. Because as soon as she lost, Blasey Ford, as soon as she lost and he was going to be anointed, so to speak, if you would pardon me using that word, it was a case of she decided to drop everything. Sweatneck dropped everything. Ramirez dropped everything. No charges were brought forward to go to court against him. None. There's a reason for that. Because they knew it wouldn't hold up in court.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there was such a lack of evidence. The FBI, before they even carried out the investigation at the Senate's request, basically said, we will carry out this investigation for you. But if it was to do with us, if it was our choice, we wouldn't do it. There is no evidence for us to rely on. There's no evidence for us to go on. We've literally just gone through a whole paper from a criminologist that has gone through and combed through so many statistics where a statistic will change. I think we can roughly say between 1 or 2 in 10, between that number, I think we can safely say between 1 and 2 out of 10 people that come forward to claim that they are sexually assaulted are probably lying.
Yeah.
I think we can safely say that with the statistics that have come forward.
Very safely. Because I said,
well, why is it different from any other crime, you know? Why is it different from any other crime where we have false reports in every other kind of crime that exists? Except maybe murder, because you need a body for that. But why is this one?
I think you have a few more here. And the reason is because females are the weaker sex. They don't like to admit that. It's going around. I mean, you get in trouble for even admitting that right now, that we're a dimorphic species. We have a difference between males and females. One of those differences is males are a little more aggressive. We got testosterone on our side for one thing, plus the physical thing. I mean, all of it. And so, you know, you get these kind of things where a female feels powerless. What's the most power you could have over a male that you feel dominated you in some way? Well, get them in trouble and say that they raped you. I mean, I know I'm not, there's other ways too, boys, but to think that that's not on the table. I mean, as someone's pointing out in the chat now, gamers pointing out, you know, they want it to be extended to all these other things like I regret it. I got wolf whistled at. That's rape. somebody
That-
farted in the elevator.
yeah.
They raped.
Yeah,
me.
I would like to make a distinction as well, that what we were talking about is not like, oh, let's go and hunt down all these women who are coming forward and like tar 20% of them with the, we don't believe you brush. What we're saying is that for most right-thinking people, well, for all right-thinking people, by definition, rape and most crime turns their stomach. Like it makes you. If you hear like about these ISIS sex slave women who are raped, it turns you can't help but have a physiological reaction to that. Like I actually felt my body heat increase with rage when I was hearing some of these testimonies from Iraq. What we're trying to get across here is the fact that this is such a heinous crime that there is no room for blurring the boundaries, and there is no room for false accusations because it's too serious. And we're the ones that are taking it seriously, and these people aren't.
And I would like to add to that as well. And I would also like to add to Gamer's point. But first of all, I would also like to say we're not doing it just because we want to attack people that we think are falsely accusing people. I'm not doing it because of that. It's mostly because I want to prove the fact that the 2% that is being peddled by the fucking mainstream media is complete and utter bullshit. In actual fact, the actual statistic that they try to use, which is quoted in that fucking book, is 2% to 10%. And they always choose to lowball it. No, why? Because if it goes up to 10%, that's still 1 in fucking 10 that come forward that lie. And that's their lowballed fucking statistic that they want to prove.
And in any statistic, there's qualifiers. So when we think about this situation,
that's why I was going to quickly go on to Gamer's point, which was it's not in certain college points. They will say that that is a classification of rape. The thing is, the ones that classify that are considered polls. They are not statistics. They are not counted by the FBI. They are not counted by the police. They are college campus polls. And these polls are then go into statistics to go nationwide to say that 1 in 3 people are being raped in a year or raped over the course of their lifetime. And that's fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
If 1 in 3 people were going to be raped or sexually assaulted in their lifetime, that means the whole population within fucking 20 years in America would have been raped.
Right.
Or maybe not 20 years, maybe 30 years, sorry. But that's the point. And when it comes to the point of what Gamer has actually just put, which is fair enough, you're entitled to your opinion. But if people come back and saying that unwanted advancement, or later that they change their minds, is them trying to say that it's rape or it falls under rape. It fucking doesn't. Go to a legal definition. It doesn't. Use the actual police definition, not college definitions.
Well, here's an interesting thing about the Scottish system is if you use, say, like the Scottish definition is so strict that if you use an implement to rape somebody or another part of your body that is not a penis, it's sexual assault. And what they do is they might give you the jail sentence that's as high as a rape case, but they refuse to budge on the legal terminology, which I think is really quite good. So if you use, a weapon or your hand or something like that, and do the same thing, you get the sentence that's as high as a rape sentence, but they won't charge you with rape. It's severe sexual assault. And the other thing they do is when they have cases, they have not guilty, they have guilty, and they have not proven, which is then allows the judge to make use his discretion or her discretion to say, whether, like, so they might not be able to prove it, but it might be pretty freaking obvious that it happened. They just can't get the forensics or whatever. So that would go not proven. So you can still get a fine or a, public apology or a short jail sentence or something. Or indeed, it's not proven, but it's not enough to be not guilty either. So it's like, well, the case closed, but you've still got it on your record. And there's a lot of leeway with that.
It shouldn't be on your record if the case is closed. So many people have had that where they've been falsely accused of fucking rape, and it stays on their record, even if they have been acquitted or even if they have been point of proving that it's not them or the case has been thrown out because of lack of evidence. It still stays on their fucking record to the point of where people can't get jobs.
Yeah, sorry, I should clarify, right? When I said that, it's because I was still thinking about the severe sexual assault thing. So if you
even sexual assault still stays on your record.
No, but if you were proven to have sexually assaulted, like say they said they were raped, right? And the sexual assault was provable, but the rape wasn't forensically. They would do a not proven on the rape, but they know that the sexual assault took place, so they put not proven and then guilty on the other one, and so it would
which
still
is
go on
still
your record.
completely not to destroy their lives.
Well, you would have committed a serious sexual assault, so that's why I should have clarified that when I was talking about it, because a sexual assault is still extremely serious.
I agree. Completely not agree that sexual assault is
So
serious.
it's not enough. There's evidence that something happened, but they can't say 100% it was definitely rape and it definitely happened. So they say not proven, which is a different thing. And then if you're not guilty, then you're not guilty, and that's fine. But they have different degrees of it, and it seems to work quite well. But some people say it doesn't. I don't know.
I don't think that works at all, in my honest opinion. I really don't think that works at all. You're either guilty of something or you're not. It's not a case of being not proven. Not proven's just a cop out of saying, maybe.
I don't know if it's that simple though, because this is a very, very long-standing thing, and arguably by some of the most legally sophisticated system in the world. So I know it's fucking taken a hit recently, so you could argue as well that it is a meme of itself now, and that these things should be gotten rid of. But I wouldn't dismiss it so quickly, and I think it's an interesting thing to look
it
into
is an
more.
Interesting thing. I'll agree with you. It's interesting, but in a crime, it is you are either guilty or not guilty. If you say and give a verdict of saying not proven, you are suggesting to people that are looking at you for work that you have been accused of this, but we couldn't prove either way if you were or if you ain't. That's ridiculous. That's still reserving the idea of you may actually be guilty, you may not be guilty. You have the court case to get your justice, whether it's you to be innocent or to be guilty. You don't get it to have a case lingering over you going, it wasn't proven. So we're not sure.
Well, the thing with the not proven thing,
you know,
sorry,
here when you go, no, just briefly, here when something like that happens, it's in the papers. So when you get out, you're already dead anyway. So I agree. To add on top of that it's some kind of weird, ambiguous, well, we couldn't prove it, but just guilty or innocent.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing because that's my initial reaction as well, but just because we agree too often, I'm going to persist. With all these footballer scandals that happen with footballer rapes person, potentially gets off with it.
Adam Johnson being the most prevalent one, the one that raped a 14-year-old.
Yeah, so what they would do for a not proven verdict, what would likely happen with something like that is the two people went into the hotel room for the duration that the victim said they went in for. She's covered in bruises, some kind of penetration occurred, it was clearly not consensual. Witnesses heard things, but they can't say without a doubt that part of his anatomy went into that part of her anatomy.
Well, they can because of forensic evidence, because you just said that there was penetration.
Yeah, but they might not know what with. That's what I'm saying. So that's why you do not proven. That's when that would happen, because it has to be a penis.
That's rape. That's provable as rape. I would convict somebody on that evidence. If there's bruises, if there's penetration that has happened.
No, but what I'm saying is it could be another thing that wasn't.
No, there should not be a case of not proven. In that case, it's a case of him being either guilty or innocent. And if people will hear the altercation going on, if there's evidence of her being bruised, that there's pictures being taken of, if the time actually coerces where they've been in the same room with each other, the evidence that you even suggested stacks up to prove that he raped her. There should not be a bit in the middle to say not proven. That doesn't give her justice. That doesn't give him justice. It's just a cop-out.
Well, it's the way it would work is you would have to say that there was not evidence that it was his dick, basically. So,
well, fine. Doing for sodomy then.
No, but that's what I'm saying. The reason they have this verdict is because they would have to shut down the trial, open up a new one for sexual assault, bring out all the same evidence, go through the whole thing again for months, and do him for the sexual assault with a similar jail time. So what they do is they go not proven.
Well, I would actually go on her testimony. If she's got so much circumstantial, well, actual evidence, not even circumstantial at that point, where we can see that she's been penetrated because it's been proven by a doctor and you said it has done. Whether it's with a dick or not, doesn't matter at this point. She's been penetrated. If it comes to the point of her being bruised and everything else like that and being beaten up and whatnot, and there's argumentations going on, and people who actually have witnessed this and actually heard it, then at that point, if she comes out and says the penetration was done by a dick, but he was wearing a condom, I'm going to believe her. I'm going to go convict the cunt, chop off his dick, castrate him. I don't give a shit.
Is there a difference if he was wearing a condom?
No, but that's the point of not being able to prove that if he was penetrating her with a dick or not. That's
what I'm saying. Is that's
things are so weird over there because you're telling. I'm here. Here's what I'm just going to say. Also, is that if I'm getting raped, if something is going in my butthole, and against my will, I don't care if it's a pencil, your finger, a dildo, your penis. I would want it to just be rape. But I understand. I mean, you started with the importance of keeping the two separated, so I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. The whole going into somebody's room, bruises, all that stuff, man. Seems like they should have just hung that dude for like a number of charges.
Well, that's fine, and I'm not saying don't do that. What I'm saying is the not proven thing is basically a way of getting around having a completely new separate trial that goes on another year or so for the same evidence, for the same outcome, but it's got a different name.
Nah, you got I agree. You got to do that. You got to do that, man, in a free society.
Because, like, for example, let's say that it was
again.
we've had cases over here of females raping. I think the one I read about was a female raping another female, but she used a thing, and they couldn't call it rape, so they had to make it sexual assault. But
yeah, agreed. So there's also one in America very, very recently where a girl was able to rape her boyfriend with a fucking machete in her hand. But they couldn't do it as rape because, the definition legally was a case of it had to be a penis or an instrument that penetrated the vagina. By its definition. Yes, I agree the definition is completely wrong, but the point that you're arguing still is a case of, even in that case, I would still say, yeah, it's sexual assault, but even if you were to come with the first initial charges of rape, then it's still a case of you can try that person on sexual assault. Or if you really have to, and throw that case out, I don't give a shit. It's a case of you can't at all be able to give somebody a not proven as a verdict. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You're always going to have that hanging over you for the rest of your life, regardless if you did or you didn't do it. It's just ridiculous to me. I know you're only arguing as a point of contention, and you don't obviously believe in any of that. But to me,
yeah, I'm not sure what I think of that one. I don't know enough about the. It was only about a year ago I learned this was even a separate verdict.
Yeah,
because of one of the cases I was reading about.
Think of it this way, Mr. Comblepoint. Think of it this way: would you be happy with a not proven on rape and it had to stay on your criminal record?
Well, I don't think a rapist would be happy with a.
No, I'm just saying, hypothetically, if you had that charge put against you, you went to court, and then you had it be a not provable offence, would you be happy with that?
Well, no, but I would have had to have done something equally severe to get that verdict. That's kind of what I'm saying to you. Like, it's so whether I'm happy about it would be almost of no consequence to people because I'd still done something provably evil.
It would be. Say somebody said that you did something, but there's enough circumstantial evidence for them to say, well, you were there, you might have done something. I would give them a not proven, even if you weren't there. But with that system, there's enough evidence just about to give you a circumstantial maybe, so it's not provable.
That's not like. See, I don't know, because the thing is, I would obviously want to get off with it, whether I was a criminal or innocent. Everybody wants to get off with it, so I don't know. Like, Because the thing is, if you've got the not proven verdict, this is what's so weird about it. This is why I wanted to bring it up with you guys, because it is a weird quirk of law. Like, I've never seen anything else like it. But well, let's turn it around, right? If it was my daughter or my wife or whatever, and the judge said, right, we know categorically that this incident took place, as is said to took place, but because she was on her front, and we don't have, like, I don't know, dick particles found inside, and it's just condom stuff, we can't say it was definitely a dick that went in. So we're going to have to reopen the trial, and then in 3 years we'll get him on sexual assault. Or we do not prove, and then he goes down for that instead.
But if it's not proven, hang on a second, you're saying that even with a not proven that they can go to prison for it?
Yeah, there was a guy. It was in the news recently. This is why I
That's
brought it up, because it was in the news recently. This guy sexually attacked a woman.
That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. How can you go to prison for a not proven?
Well, he had to pay.
Terrible.
He had to pay a massive fine. I don't know if he went to prison. This is why I brought it up, because it was fresh in my mind, and it was so weird.
That's absolutely ridiculous, my friend. I know that you don't necessarily believe in it or whatever, and I know you're just asking as a question. But just think of it in your own self. And you didn't do something, but there's enough circumstantial evidence for you to get a not proven. And you can go to prison for it, or you could pay a fine for it. That is completely and utterly ridiculous, my friend. That's the reason why you're either innocent or guilty.
Yeah, that sounds bad, yes. Got to agree with that. For me, as far as the fine, it wouldn't matter if it was a penny or a pound. As far as a jail sentence, wouldn't matter if it's a day or a decade.
Yep.
It should be nothing. You can't. I mean, I get that there's variations in there, but I hate. Look, there was a time in our country where we were free, and in a free country, there are a certain amount of criminals that get off. In fact, there's times where everyone knows the person is guilty.
Yeah.
Because something was handled improperly or something happened. It happens less and less now because they say they close up loopholes. No, that's the way it is when you have a free society. You can't make rules to take the blindfold off Lady Justice and say there's more justice in the world.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I was absolutely blown away that there was just a third verdict. I was just like, what the fuck? So I'm kind of learning more about it, but I still don't know what I think of it. I can see the utility in it, but like, if you take common sense's argument of, if everybody's innocent till proven guilty and everybody gets their day in court, and it really should it really be open to interpretation at all? Like, it should be one or the other.
Yeah.
Surely. It should be yin and yang, light or dark. You did the thing or you didn't do the thing. And then, so I can see the argument of utility that was made, and I've already made it, about do we put this woman through another however many years of giving evidence, shit like that, just to come up with essentially the same verdict. But at the same time, I think for the legal system to have, what would you say, credibility, I think if you take that as the priority, then it maybe should be gotten rid of, and then they should just not have this third verdict. Because if the legal system is to be fully trusted, I can see the utility, but the legal system is meant to be like above utility. It's meant to be about principles, surely.
Exactly.
So that's where
yeah.
But we have so many weird categories up here. We have this is something I think the English would do very well to adopt. In Scotland, you don't get arrested until they're charging you. So in England, if somebody is, say, arrested on suspicion of child pornography, this happened, the guy's life was ruined. The police had no evidence on him. They just he was the only person to question. So they questioned him, and then they let him go, completely exonerated. Absolutely nothing brought against him, but it was in the newspaper. This man has been arrested for this. Now in Scotland, what would happen is he would be brought in for questioning and released.
Use a really bad example for that, because they won't arrest somebody on suspicion of child pornography until they are almost completely and utterly certain that they can get stuff off of him, to the point where they've almost entrapped him into it. But that's a particular example.
Okay, that's a bad example then. But
I do understand that suspicion of robbery, for instance, that's something that you could definitely use.
Yeah, and so you'd be arrested for that, even though it was just questioning, and then they would let you go. But in Scotland, you're just detained. And you could be detained for anything. You could be detained because they need you around and you refuse to give evidence and you're a witness.
Sure.
And they need you to give the evidence. You could be detained for that. It doesn't mean you committed a crime.
Yeah.
The police have all sorts of reasons to detain people. An arrest is made when basically the case is ready to go to court. It's quite interesting.
No, I think that's actually quite a decent little policy to do. That way you can detain somebody and then question them without them actually being arrested, so it doesn't blemish their record.
Well, that's exactly the reason for it. Because I was baffled. I thought that was the same all over the UK, because I heard about... I can't remember. I'm sure it was child porn, but let's say it wasn't, because you know more about that than me. The case is not child
porn. For you.
Yeah. But yeah, so the guy, it said man arrested. And then he was released, and they just arrested him for questioning. And I was like, holy shit, that's in the newspapers forever now. Like, the word arrested. Like, that's fucking mental. And I didn't realize that was just par for the course down there.
Yeah. I've worked out that the reason why we've got so little people watching is because they've got the kill stream on at this moment in time. And you've also got the red eye on as well at this moment in time.
Well, fucking both. Y'all want to know something?
I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered. No. I was just thinking in general. I wanted to move on to the Tommy Robinson stuff anyway.
No, the 18th of this month. Do y'all know what that is?
No.
It's the 18th of October. Nobody knows.
Thanksgiving, is it?
No, that's so wrong. But that's funny that you said that. I mean, you really don't know much about American.
Is it Canadian
holidays? If you're saying that, it is so funny. Well, I'm not Canadian, but it's anyway. It's the 20. It's me and Mrs. Ogre's 25th anniversary.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, I had to break in. I'm gonna leave. I'm leaving now. But I gotta go. I gotta go do some stuff. I had a light tea earlier, but I guess we're gonna take off a little early and go and piss off, because also coincidentally to the 18th thing. Today is she could have got called into work today, but she didn't. So today is the start of 2 weeks off for Mrs. Ogre. So yeah,
nice. Yeah, go and enjoy yourself, man. Give your missus the best as well.
Excellent talk, gentlemen. Excellent talk. Thanks a lot, boys. I'll be probably listening for at least about another half hour while I get some stuff ready.
Sure. All the best to you both, and it was good talking to you, man.
Oh, thank you. Goodbye.
No worries, mate. Right then, Mr. Combo Point, just me and you then, sir. And we're going to move on to the Tommy Robinson stuff today.
Yes, please do. This was an interesting one.
Yeah, lots of guilt by association today. Lots and lots of guilt by association, which really pisses me off, as you can tell by my stance on crime in itself at this moment. So first of all, I wanted to show this video. I don't know why that's up, and you're just playing straight away. That's nice. Thank you very much. Fuck off. I'm a boomer. Right. So I'm going to play this video, which is Tommy Robinson, obviously, as you can quite rightly see, and he just meets the British Army. It's only a 16, 17 second long clip. Yes, you heard me correct. 17 seconds, all in all. And this has got a lot of people into trouble. So let's listen to see what's actually happening, shall we?
Most honourable morning I've ever had, anyway. Class, eh? Makes it all worth it. An honour.
So that's literally what's happened. That was a video that was played earlier, well, yesterday actually, sorry to say. It was played yesterday. And then we come to this, which is breaking news from the Rebel media. So you can go on and actually read this yourselves if you wanted to. And that is breaking. One of the soldiers that had picture taken with Tommy Robinson, or in this case, the video we've seen, has already been dismissed, allegedly. Sign a petition, don't let these bastards get away with it, blah, blah, blah. But already the guilt by association is ridiculous. Now, if you just want to give me a quick couple of seconds, and I want to quickly run through all of these so we can quickly go through everything. And this is just the power that's going through our media at this moment in time, and the actual schooling system that's actually going through this moment in time as well. So we'll move on to this story as well, which is a teacher gave my son a detention for saying he would vote UKIP. Now, I'm going to do a video on these in a hell of a lot of more detail that comes out on Monday. I've already done the actual video itself, but I'll give you a quick premise of what's actually going on. They were actually debating, as you can see here. Paul in Loughton said 3 boys, including his 15-year-old, were issued the punishment following a classroom debate during the 2016 general election. So this is not a case that he come out and just said, "Oh, fuck it, I'm racist, I'm going to vote for this or that." They were literally talking about general election, who would you vote for, who would you like, and blah, blah, blah. And he was given detention for saying he would vote for UKIP. Guilt by association. Because you support UKIP, then you support all the racists that support UKIP. Guilt by association. So now we go one step further. Remember, this is in the secondary school. So now we go one step further into the rabbit hole. We now go to the Sun. Yes, I know it's the fucking Sun. I do understand. And the story is also in LBC as well, if you wanted it from a more credible news source. But this one's a little bit better from how it's written. So, Tommy Robinson supporting student 17 thrown out of class after revealing support for the right-wing EDL founder, which I still find laughable that they still even mention that, even though it's been 6 years. So, a student has claimed that she was thrown out of a class saying that she loved Tommy Robinson. And the point is there, loved Tommy Robinson. I don't know if she fancies him. I don't know if she thinks that he's the bad boy that she can change. I don't know what it is, the reason why she said this. I do know the reason and how it come up, though. And I'll just see if I can quickly get to that. Because, yeah, they list off all of his things as well from Tommy Robinson, because this is more of a blast at Tommy Robinson than the actual school that actually got rid of her, so to speak. Well, college, actually.
School that broke the law. Yes,
section 203 or something, I fucking believe. I'm not 100% sure. I know somebody tweeted it out recently.
Dude, not just British law. That's European Court of Human Rights shit.
I know that, mate. I know that.
Like, I'll let you finish.
No, it's just okay. I've literally only got this story and one more, and then that's it. We're done. Or we can actually completely and utterly delve into this for however long we need to, or however long we want to. So, Tommy Fan, Elisa, which is the name of the 17-year-old girl who was kicked out of class and then was later suspended, she was excluded from class after students were asked to discuss their favorite people. Now, this was in a maths and English class. A maths and English class. All right, this all happened in. They were asked to discuss their favorite people. She said the discussion never developed into an argument. We were just sharing our views. When Jeremy Corbyn was mentioned, I said that I didn't like him much. But I didn't want to get into an argument over it. But it just went on from there, and I told them I loved Tommy and that I believed he was a savior and that he no longer supported the EDL movement, which he's not wrong in. He doesn't. That's the reason why he fucking left. But this is the important bit. The tutor then asked me to step outside for some fresh air and that we would have a chat when I come back. The teacher said that they didn't want people with my views in the room. See, that's what's going on at this moment in time. None of the others received a warning. Oh yeah, that's another thing. This girl almost had a perfect record for her college, to the point of this is the first time that she's ever had any sort of goings-on or even point of possibly getting reprimanded. She hasn't had a written warning. She didn't have a verbal warning. She literally just got excluded from the class. Nothing, no warning, no nothing. You've got the wrong political view. Fuck off. That's ridiculous. And this is possibly the reason why. 8 in 10 British university lectures are left-wing survey finds.
Only 8 in 10.
Yeah, I was surprised as well. I thought it'd be higher. The rest are centrists.
Yeah, I'll bet they're pretty centre-left as well.
Yeah. But I find all of this absolutely... I find it very, very worrying. The fact is that freedom of speech and all that type of jazz is being completely and utterly destroyed by the fact of people can't accept other people's views. Now, these people, all of these people, were not expressing any racist views. They were not expressing complete and utter solidarity with all of these people. They were not even saying that they completely agree with all of these people. But because A couple have supported Tommy Robinson because a couple have decided they were going to support UKIP. Remember, these are the only stories that have actually come forward as well that I could find. And yet, they've all got same purposes. They were talking about political discourse in most cases, or ideas of favourite people in one case. And they were asked what their point of view was. They gave their point of view. It was the wrong point of view, apparently, in most cases. And they were either given a detention, secluded, or expelled. And to the actual point, I actually have a story in the video that's coming out Monday where you have a primary school teacher that stood next to a flag that supported Tommy Robinson that lost her job because of it. So that's in every layer of our school system that I've just gone through. That goes through primary school, secondary school, college, and universities. All of them have biased to the point of not being able to express a right-wing view. And if you do, you are scolded for it and punished in one way or another. So what has actually happened to freedom of speech? And what do you think about it, Crumple Point, rather than me ranting and raving? I did enough of that on my video.
No, you weren't ranting and raving. That was a very good rundown of everything, and it was remarkably dispassionate in the sense that you were actually giving them their due, well, more than their due, and saying, you bypassed the fact that every single organisation that you've just mentioned has now broken the law on many levels, and actually just went for the guilt by association point.
Yeah.
Which was the more difficult point to go for, because it's nice and easy to just say, well, it's illegal. Have them done legally.
Mm-hmm.
The point is the mentality that would drive people to do that.
Yeah.
Because it could have been the other way around. It could have been like, oh, I really like fucking... I can't think of a single Labour politician. Fuck it. I really like Gerald Kaufman. And then the right-wing evil Tory, crazy Thatcherite dystopians go, well, you're out of the class. That would have been equally despicable.
Of course, definitely.
So the guilt by association thing is a good route to go down. So, and the legal thing is frankly not that interesting to talk about. It's simply illegal what they just did.
Yeah.
The thing with it is, firstly, this is a good example, in my opinion, of why education is far too important for the government to be involved in it. They shouldn't be allowed anywhere near it. And because the thing is, Tommy Robinson is an enemy of the established system. So they will I hate this term has been ruined, but they will weaponize the system in order to get rid of anybody who doesn't exhibit good think. And what else do you expect of a government? But the other thing is that you see this about Tommy Robinson and all that. This is in the same week that the British Army were releasing information packs for Muslims who want to join the army.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that they can, I don't know. I didn't read it, but, whatever. It's like, oh, if you need to stop during a gunfight to pray to Mecca, that's fine. I don't know what the hell it was. But
oh, no, I see the advert for it. I see Tommy Robinson.
It was nauseating. It's an army, not a bloody safe space. And
exactly. You don't expect fucking Christians to stop to be able to pray. You don't expect Jewish people to stop and pray in the middle of a fucking war that's going on. Do you think the opposite side are going to go, oh, he's praying, he's no form? Of course, they're going to fucking shoot you. Just because you accept it on your side doesn't mean that they're going to accept it on theirs, regardless of religion.
Yep.
Sorry,
No, that was fine. That was an insightful point. The other thing though is, so there's that, but there's also the thing of the leader of Her Majesty's opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, has been photographed on stage shaking hands with and neck kissing every terrorist organisation you care to mention.
Yep.
And he is the leader of Her Majesty's opposition. He gets on all the news. They slander Jeremy Corbyn in awful ways and bypass the fact that he's a terrorist sympathiser as well. That's the other ludicrous thing. Is they'll go after him for his silly beard or his bad jacket, but they won't actually go after him for being a terrorist sympathiser. And the other thing...
Well, the mainstream media won't. There's lots of people on Twitter that do. In fact, even two Jewish Labour supporters and even an organisation for anti-Semitism for Labour are actually completely and utterly against Jeremy Corbyn at this minute in time, especially on Twitter. To the point you also have you also have one of them as well that's pointing out that at this moment in time, Jeremy Corbyn was doing a rally in Barnet, which obviously is a Jewish constituency. Guess who he's banned from actually turning up? I'll give
The
you one
Jews.
guess. It starts with a J. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually stopped the Jews from actually being able to go into his rally
That is
because he doesn't
priceless.
want to answer any questions, obviously.
Priceless. Yeah, you'll not share a stage with them and call them friends.
No. Considering that he also supported two terrorists that actually decided that they were actually going to blow up the Jewish embassy, but luckily enough, didn't actually go through with it. So the actual fact of to this day, Jeremy Corbyn actually says that both of them were innocent and both of them were set up, even though MI5 and MI6 took over the actual investigation, were actually to prove the fact that they had 4 guns each in the locker. They had over 6 pounds of C4 explosives. They also had their own clocks and everything else like that. They were willing to make timed explosives to the point where they actually said themselves that they were actually going to blow shit up. Sorry, I get on tirades when it comes to Jeremy Corbyn because so many people give him a pass and say, nah, he just doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, and that's just the opposition because the Prime Bloody Minister has been on stage doing some weird crazy dance with a man who is sanctioning the racially motivated murder of people in South Africa. And what do they make fun of her for? The dance. Not who she's sharing the stage with. It's unbelievable. So that's happening in the political sphere. And what do they go after? They go after powerless students who are supporting, at best, an edgy journalist. Because that's what he is. That's what Tommy Robinson is. And if you actually look what his body of work consists of, it consists of outing terrorists.
Yeah.
And other criminals. And it's not even something you can dispute. Because you can... He shows you where they live. You remember that infamous video?
I do.
It's only infamous to them. I wouldn't use that word personally about how I feel about it. But, you know, when he's going around and saying, look, this mosque, and here's the satellite of terrorists around it.
That's the reason why I actually support Tommy Robinson, because he doesn't just spit vitriol. He doesn't just spit so much hatred or anything else like that. He actually points out what he's talking about and he gives evidence for what he's talking about. The fact is that Tommy Robinson did an interview with Sky News very, very recently. And if you go onto Tommy Robinson's channel as well, it'll actually be able to show you properly.
Yeah.
And he actually recorded the whole interview. And Sky News themselves took Tommy Robinson so much out of context that when Tommy Robinson actually released the video, Sky News have actually made a retraction and the actual interview itself has been taken down.
Yeah, what did they use? 4 minutes, 6 minutes of a 1.5 hour interview.
And they still cut it up to make him look racist when he said he didn't care about causing tensions with Muslims, which is not what he said at all.
But the thing is as well, if you're making a 6-minute video out of a 1.5 hour clip, that's effectively a YouTube poop. That's not journalism.
Of course.
I can do that with anyone using clipping now. It's that easy to do. I mean, you see people do it all the time with these Alex Jones joke videos where they'll they'll have him saying the most hilarious things, and they do it with, you know, Sam Harris and all that as well, where he's going, you know, they had one with that Dillahunty guy that he was debating, and it was a clip cut together of Dillahunty saying he was going to throw Sam Harris off the stage.
I wish he would have done.
It was clipped together, and it looked like, if you didn't know it was a joke, it looked perfectly plausible.
See, I like Sam Harris. I really like Sam Harris when it comes to religious points. I think he's really intelligent when it comes to that. When it comes to politics, nah.
Yeah, I'm not I don't really have any feelings either way on Sam Harris, but it was
Put it this way, anyway, he's against Brexit. Put it this way, he's staunchly against Brexit, so he calls other people stupid because they voted for Brexit.
Yeah, I don't think he's... Yeah, let's leave Sam Harris for another day. I'm not really that much.
Hey, just because that he believes in one thing doesn't mean that he's completely wrong on all the other things. I'm just saying that for that one person, that one thing, I dislike him over, but that doesn't mean that his other points that he makes on religion are invalid.
Well, yeah, and I really dislike
Hero is a fucking homophobic wanker, but that doesn't mean that his points on economy and policies and what other people do generally by the Constitution is wrong. His stance on his homophobia and it is homophobia to the point of he won't even shake gay people's hands. And for that, go and watch the Dave Rubin video and interview on him, saying that he wouldn't go to his gay party because he's got gay in it. But that's Ben Shapiro. But that doesn't mean that I dislike him on his other points. It just means that I would call him out for that shit.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so like, yeah, but my thing was not that I wanted to go and mount a defense of these people. It's that I don't want to get in the rabbit hole of bashing them. But the thing is, so these are all the people that we're dealing with, and Tommy Robinson is effectively, an edgy journalist who isn't even a crooked journalist, an edgy one, because he's not crooked because they can't actually refute anything he says.
No, that's the reason why they just call him racist all the time.
Exactly. They can't go, look, mate, you need to do a retraction because what you said here was absolutely categorically provably false, like they do with Sky and the BBC and the rest of them, where they do have to print retractions. Yep. So that's all he is. He's not all. I actually think he's very good, but like he is an agitating journalist, which is what you want a journalist to be, in my opinion. Versus what we just described of various terrorist sympathizers in the form of the people who run our government. And it's like this guilt by association, and it's for the people that least deserve it.
Do you know what's really funny? The fact is that when the Manchester bombing attack happened, unfortunately, and God bless all of them that have had stuff happen to them, but when that happened, he called out the mosque that was across the road that was the one that was going to be the one that radicalized people, that was the one that was going to be pushing the idea of terrorism. A year and a bit later, I think it was the BBC, did an expose on the same church that they called racist Tommy Robinson for calling out on. In fact, they even went after the imam to try and find out the reasons why he's such a terrorist sympathizer.
And even then, it was pretty softball.
Exactly.
But that's the thing.
The point was that Tommy Robinson was correct, and then the BBC went after him for calling him racist, but then they did it themselves anyway. It's just to show hypocrisy in itself. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they're not above actually using his tips is hilarious. Yeah. But if people are mystified as to why Tommy Robinson has support in this country, if it's a mystery to you as to why, that is exactly why. That horrible attack took place where people were just, it was a disaster. It was horrible. And there's no point in going into that and risk virtue signaling, but it was horrible. Wow. And the only person, or the only prominent person, who actually went and within a few hours was giving us solid intelligence and was visibly angry about it was Tommy Robinson. All the other news reporters, within seconds, were there trying to say, oh, we can't possibly know anything yet. Oh, look how horrible it is, but we can't know anything. And I must be completely calm and dispassionate and not care and be all journalisty. It's like, that's why he's got support. I don't want to watch, what's his name, Hugh Edwards, sitting there completely emotionless talking about a bombing that we might not know who did it, even though we know who did it.
Yeah.
And just pretending like it's not a thing and then just forgetting about it later when it's out of the news cycle. Meanwhile, this other guy who actually talks, not accent-wise, but he talks like me because he's from a similar, like, normal, real life to me, is out there raging and actually giving us information that we know to be true, and we can go and fact check for ourselves if we don't believe him.
Exactly.
And that's why he's got support.
And that's why the establishment is so scared of him. And that's the reason why anybody that supports him is now guilty by association. Because if you can't take Tommy Robinson to prison, maybe you can disenfranchise the people that follow him. And if you do that, then he won't have an audience to speak to.
Yeah, and let's think of the victimization of these people as well. Like, this young girl who's got everything going for her has now got this horrible accusation level that I've been called a racist by a teacher before, and it's not a nice thing to have happened to you. And full disclosure, what happened was I put on a silly French accent. That's what I got called a racist in front of 30 people for. And
you're absolute racist, dude.
Yeah, absolute racist. But so what I did was I just absolutely went ballistic at her and made a formal complaint to the school. And because that's what you have to do.
Yeah. I said, so you should have done, and well done for that.
But that's what you have to do now. If that girl hasn't had the wherewithal to do that because she's just so shocked by what just happened, she's now got this stupid accusation hanging over her head. She probably feels awful at the fact that a person that she probably had a degree of respect for, or at least liked, has now turned on her like this. Meanwhile, a guy who's just back probably from hell on earth, effectively, in the army, you know, theoretically, let's give him his due, signed up to protect the country.
Yeah.
And that's his reward. He decides that as a human being, he supports this journalist, because that's what Tommy Robinson is.
Yeah.
And he loses his job for it?
Well, let's take it from a different aspect. Tommy Robinson is somebody who's famous. He's quite well known. If he's not got his picture around in some newspaper, then he's well known all over the world. But for somebody to meet him, especially if you're young and impressible, regardless if you like his politics or not, you're probably going to get a little bit starstruck, where you want to take his picture to go, yeah, I met Tommy Robinson, regardless of what your politics are. Does that mean that if you met Rita Ora and then she somehow turned into hate in America, that anybody that's then associated with her by taking pictures should be classified as a terrorist? Because it's a ridiculous form of being able to classify people as guilty by association. Ridiculous.
Well, you're quite right, because these people are interesting. Like, if it was, you heard what I just said about Jeremy Corbyn, Theresa May. Now, if they came to my place of work or my house, knocking on doors, and they were on the doorstep wanting to shake my hand, I'd shake their bloody hand, and I'd be quite like, oh my God, it's the Prime Minister. That's interesting.
I've got an email from her. She's not that interesting.
And Corbyn, regardless of how much I disagree with him, I would want at least to know more about him and to ask him a few questions. I would make perhaps polite conversation, and if I got the chance, I would maybe tell him why I disliked him so much, and maybe hopefully get him to change his mind on a few things. I certainly wouldn't be running, going, ooh, I must get away from the wrong thinker. So, yeah, your point stands. Like, let's take the Tommy Robinson thing out of it and it's just persona non grata. Yeah. Well, it's famous persona non grata. It's interesting. They're an interesting person. They're on the TV and stuff. They're quite
well known.
Controversial.
You're going to be the talk of any party. Oh, he's got a picture of Tommy Robinson. Oh, he's got a picture of Michael Jackson. Oh, he's got a picture of blah 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 blah. You're always going to be talked about. You're always going to have that little conversation piece, and you're always going to be remembered for it.
Well, yeah, think how much people hate Tony Blair and stuff like that. If somebody came into your work and went, I met Tony Blair yesterday, you'd still be like, oh, wow, that's something. Like,
not for me. I probably would
maybe
have gone,
not as an example as that, but let's say David Cameron. You'd be like, what? You met David Cameron? That's fucking mental. You wouldn't be like, oh my God, why didn't you, report him or call the police or run screaming and clutching your pearls? You would just be like, oh wow, that's nuts. You met that guy? Holy shit. And I know that I'd really dislike David Cameron, but if I met him, I'd be like, oh wow, it's David Cameron. I wouldn't be like phoning my friends going, oh, look at this evil racist before. Like, no, that's not how people behave. So yeah, people are allowed to, but that's the thing, is that this guy worked for the armed forces.
I would like to do a quick juxtaposition. Now, we've all gone to the point of going, well, okay, well, they support Tony Robinson, for instance. What would happen if it was a conservative private school and you had a leftist go into there going, I support Jeremy Corbyn, and being told to leave? How much of a stink, how much of a worldwide press release would happen because of that? And what part of the government do you reckon would get blamed for it as well, on top of? How high do you reckon that would go for being it that way? How high do you reckon it would go for the accusations of it happening from if it was the opposite way round? And to how the right react to people from the left?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I would be just as irritated about it.
No, I'd be irritated about it, but what I was meaning was how the left would run with the story and would politicize the story and would say, oh, this is because we have a conservative government. Look what the conservative government is doing, and blah, blah, blah.
Yep, definitely.
That's what I meant by doing the juxtaposition, because if this happened to somebody that was on the left from a right-leaning school, you can bet your bottom fucking dollar that this would be used completely and utterly against everybody on a right to say that they're not for free speech, they're not for democracy, they're not for this, they're not for that. It's all a lie. And then if we bring this up to people on the left, they just go, yeah, but not all of us are like that. And that's it, done. That's the end of the story, end of the discussion.
Yep. But that's the other thing that the left tend to do is... See, the reason it's not such a problem on the right is the right don't whine about, like, oh, we're so compassionate all the time. Because if they did, it would be just as ludicrous. But the left are all, they have a monopoly on compassion, right? They're the only ones that know what that means. Yet, they can't go, you know what, I politically disagree with that guy, but come on, that dude's just lost his job over shaking hands with some dude I don't like. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
They'll never do it. Like, I mean, some of them will. So you'll know a couple who'll be like, "Oh, that's a shame." But generally, and especially in the media, and especially like the party faithful, will be like, "Oh no, we're making a valuable ground gain against the alt right," and it's like, that's a human being. You just ruined their fucking potentially life.
Yep, exactly.
Well, several of them, in fact, not just one.
Well, that's the thing. Because of somebody being called racist, because of somebody getting literally almost chucked out of school, I also got University of Sussex that I'll be doing on Monday's video about this as well, where they actually are so diverged of opinion that you actually have a professor that is to do with public relations, that instead of saying that we're going to deal with, I don't know, nasty ideas as a platitude, they actually go how to deal with the far right, and didn't think that anybody in their university. Remember, this is a university club that has been made for like a lunchtime thing, as it was a discussion at lunch or something. Didn't even suggest or even think that there might be somebody that had right-leaning views on their campus, because they thought everybody was going to be left or left-leaning, that they would actually be invited to talk about the problems of the right. That's how inclusive the left want to be, especially in universities.
And the disturbing thing about that is it's hilarious that they will go around, they'll have the Che Guevara t-shirt on, mass murderer of children, personally, with his actual own hands. And they'll say, oh yeah, no, communism's a good thing. I like Joseph Stalin, who led to the death of millions and millions and millions.
Yeah, but it wasn't his fault. He didn't do it right.
Yeah. And, Karl Marx, who wrote the fucking handbook, they'll say he's okay as well. And that's somehow allowed, right? And then they're checking under their bed for these, like, non-existent Nazis. There are fucking Nazis. They don't exist.
Well, not in the way that they think that they do. There are some forms of proper racist and nationalistic people.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Course, but there's
do pop up here and there. And a lot of them, might I add, are the police posing as Nazis, because I can't remember. Somebody, I think it was Jordan Peterson, was saying there's a Nazi shortage in Canada because, you go on. They did it wasn't a study. I think it was a newspaper found out that like a third of the people on this Nazi forum on the internet were in fact the Canadian government trying to find Nazis.
Nice.
So they were actually causing Nazis.
Oh my god, fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a third or a tenth. Don't quote me on that. I'm really bad with fucking...
No, that's fine. But could you imagine that if the police were to do that for communism? And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that communism is as bad as Nazism. I'm actually trying to say that communism is actually worse in the ways that it's actually been implemented throughout history, including socialism in Venezuela. But, wasn't done properly. Anyway, but can you imagine if it was actually done on a communistic forum, that the police were looking for communists? How much that the left in themselves would be complaining about freedom of speech and everything else like that.
Yep.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to defend Nazis. I'm really not. I think that they're fucking horrendous people. For the actual ones that actually honestly do believe in everything that Nazism, and people that read the Mein Kampf and actually believe it as a Bible, I think they're horrible and heinous people. I really, really do. But does that give the government the right to shut down what they're speaking about? I don't know. I mean, monitor them and find out where they are? Sure, definitely. I think that should be done in open forums. If it's closed, then it's kind of closed. But what I'm trying to say is that the way that you actually get to find out what people are doing is by letting them speak. If you want to find out what somebody honestly, personally believes, then let them speak. It's the same thing if you're trying to have a debate. Let them express their views, let them express their points of view and their ideas. Because once they do, you can use that as rope to hang them with it. And that's the same thing with Nazism and any bad ideology out there.
Well, the
Let
thing
them-
is that the Nazis are born of either mental illness or ignorance, both of which you can get rid of. Like, so if you just let them speak and you actually have a conversation with them, you'll find out that they're actually batshit crazy, or they're pure evil, but they're never going to do anything about it, and that's fine. You know, they can just go and rot somewhere, or they're just stupid, and you can just have a conversation and educate them.
Exactly.
So
I was having a conversation with somebody that was in Antifa, believe it or not, or somebody who claimed to be an Antifa.
you
I'm not
managed
saying
to have a conversation with one.
Well, it was more of a Twitter screaming match, but yeah,
I knew it wasn't a real conversation.
it was all right for a while. It was all right for a while because we were talking about ideologies, and then the ideology of Nazism was brought up, and they said, "Oh, you'd support Nazism." It's like, no, but I'd let them speak. I was like, "Why would you let Nazism speak?" It's like, because it's an ideology. The only way to stop an ideology is by stopping the actual ideology, not by killing the people that believe in it. Because if you were able to do that, then the Second World War should have stopped everybody that was ever going to be a Nazi from becoming a Nazi. But guess what? You believe that there's tons around. So if you believe there are tons around, you've obviously done it wrong, which means maybe start out, listening to them and changing their mind. Nazism isn't an ideology, it's what you're born with. I was like, what the fuck?
Wow. Wow. Holy shit. That's
Yeah. It was fun. I actually didn't stop laughing for about 10 minutes when he said that.
That's like on the stupidometer, right? That's like one of those carnival tricks, where you drop the hammer onto the thing and it goes up and hits the bell. That just knocked the bell off. Holy shit. You're born a Nazi.
Yeah. He was like, you're either you already have the ideas in you, or you're a placation of what actually happens from your nurturing, as in it comes from your parents. So I said, okay, one, well, that makes it an ideology, is it's a nurture point rather than a nature point. Then you also have the point of, how did their mum and dad become a Nazi? Is that through ideology? It was like, well, no, you're just born as it. It was just like, oh, I'm going to go now. I'm going to go. I'm obviously not going to get through to you on this. I'm going to leave.
This is the thing, though. It's like, I think this is actually fine to say. I don't think anybody would bite my head off. Well, anybody sensible would bite my head off for saying this. I think that once you start making claims that certain races are superior to other races, you're not allowed in the conversation anymore. Like, I don't mean you're banned. I just mean I'm not speaking to you, and probably nobody else should either until you read a fucking book and calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
Now, the same thing on the left happens when they start talking about equal outcomes. Affirmative action. Everybody should be equal. As soon as somebody starts saying that, that should be enough to exclude you from the conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's the most murderous thing. And the thing is that people, this is the same as the rape thing, actually, with you and I, and Ogre, I'm assuming, would be the same, and all our other buddies on here. We would get put up as the ones apologizing for Nazism, or in the earlier case, rape, because we're trying to keep it isolated and say that the other things that aren't that need taken off the table.
Yes.
Because we're the ones that actually get how horrific it is and understand that you cannot have that bleeding, like that needs sectioned, that needs quarantined away, and nothing else gets to interfere with it or potentially spread it.
Yeah.
And this is the same with Nazism. We are saying the alt-right doesn't actually exist. It's just this fucking catch-all. And the people that would be neo-Nazis are so small in number that the term should just be dropped. Because we understand that the ideology is so reprehensible and so dangerous that it's not... It's like the Voldemort thing. It's like you do not say his fucking name unless absolutely necessary, because it's just too big. and we've read the accounts of people who were in the concentration camps. We've read the accounts of, in fact, Nazi prison guards and things like that. We know how horrible these people are. So when some blue hair-dyed liberal who doesn't get on with you calls you a Nazi, that has to be called out and it has to not be allowed. Because it's too dangerous to allow that term to be watered down. And so calling Tommy Robinson a Nazi racist buzzword of the day, it can't be done. Because the thing is that what you're accusing him of, especially if you know he's not that, it waters it down for the next time when you're talking about the real deal. It's the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
And so that's the right-wing equivalent. But I still think that with the left, when they're talking about redistribution and stuff like that, that should be taken. That should ring the same alarm bells as when somebody says one race is superior to another race, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on it very quickly because it's coming up to 11:30. But I'll touch on it very, very quickly because it placates to your point very, very nicely. And it's a case of they're now thinking in the United Kingdom, or at least in England at this minute in time, and making a 4-week and getting paid for 5 days. And I've been having believe it or not, I've been having a conversation with a couple of people that are on the left. One just attacked my character straight off the bat and said, "Oh, you're always on Twitter and always doing this. You obviously haven't worked." So I went through the process of me been working since the age of 13, had done security for most of my life as well, and blah, 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 and now I'm disabled. The conversation shifted from then, obviously, because he's slightly left and was like, "Oh, I don't know what your situation is." But anyway, the main point that I was trying to make was, when I've actually talked to people that are actually interested in what's going on, one of them tried to say, "Oh, well, you're only getting paid for the 4 days. You're not getting paid for the 5." So I showed him a Guardian piece, because obviously you can't use anything else apart from the Guardian, otherwise you can't sue. So I showed him a Guardian piece where even in the Guardian piece it says you will work for 4 days but be paid the same regardless, as in it had the commas and whatever. Sorry, the bit where they have on. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, and it was saying, let me actually do this properly. It actually said that you would be paid the same as if you were working the normal 5-day week. So I pointed this out to people. Their argument was that you would actually be working slightly more hours during those 4 days to get the 5th day off. So my argument straight back to them is, but then you're still doing the same amount of hours, so you haven't actually gained anything. Either you're lying or this is just false. And in both of the people I was talking to about it haven't got back to me from either aspect.
Not surprised. Also, we have a name for that. It's called Flexi Time. It exists. It's real people.
There was a Uber? Is it a Uber or is it Deliveroo? That were actually, no, it was Uber. They were actually protesting because they didn't want to get rid of a 0-hour contract.
Oh yeah, that's a classic. I fucking love that when that happens. The left's like, we need rid of 0 hours contracts, blah blah blah. And it's like, well, what about all the people that need the 0-hour contracts? What about them?
Yeah.
Are they just too stupid to know what's good for them? And you work in your full-time cushy job, probably in the civil service or something like that. You know better than them, do you?
Yeah, apparently so, mate. But then again, isn't that some people's ideology anyway?
Yeah, and then what they say is this is the thing. This is why I stopped arguing politics, because I started to sound to myself like an ideologue, because I was arguing with ideologues. Therefore, my solutions were usually the same, and I just stopped arguing politics. So give them their due. This actually got a lot of people to take a minute and sometimes even agree with me. 0-hour contracts, we need rid of them. And I'm like, well, how do you know that person's situation? They're like, okay, fair enough, but we need to get rid of people forced into 0-hour contracts. I'm like, well, we live in a free country. You can't force anybody into anything, within reason. And they're like, yeah, but it's not like they're holding a gun to their head. It's just that they're impoverished and they don't have any other choice. It's like, well, that's different. That's circumstance. What you're going to... You can't know every circumstance, and you can't change every circumstance. And they're like, well, these people are impoverished, and that's why they go for the 0-hour contract, so they should have more money. And it's like, okay, well, how would you do that? It's like, well, increase benefits. I'm like, well, you know what you could do, actually? You could make the currency worth something again.
Or I
and
normally
raise
say
wages that way. You don't actually have to put wages up. You don't have to have the minimum wage up. You don't
that's
have
the
to
point,
put
though.
benefits up.
But that's the point, though, Crumple Point. If you put benefits up, who the fuck's going to work? And if you've got nobody working, how are you going to get tax? If you've got no tax, how are you going to pay for the fucking benefits?
Oh yeah,
That's
and then they
why I
always say
normally
we'll
go and
just
ask
borrow
people
it.
that. But you can't keep on borrowing on an economy that's not going to give you any money, because if you've got most of the people working on benefits, I say working, I mean living on benefits, then all you're doing is borrowing to feed the people that are on benefits. You're on borrowed time. Your economy is going to tank. You're not going to be able to actually be productive.
Well, this is how you can tell you're talking to a reasonable person, though, because a lot of the times that they would give me we'll just borrow it or raise wages or something like that, and I would say to them, look, how much can we agree that we fucking hate RBS and all the banker scum that caused the 2008 crash? And I was like, I think we can fairly agree that. I'm like, okay, and you hate them because of what they did, yes.
Sure.
Well, why would you want to perpetuate that practice of borrowing and make it even more necessary than it already is? And then they would be, that's how you can tell you're dealing with a reasonable person or not, because then you know that they're either the means justifies the ends, and they're just blinkered because they go, oh, well, we'll borrow it and, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Or they go, no, you're, fair enough, actually, it is a reprehensible practice and we shouldn't add to it. And then that's what politics is about, because I don't have the answer as to how you raise everybody's income so that they don't need 0-hour contracts anymore. I don't have that answer, but I'm clever enough to know that nobody has that answer, which is why we have a House of Representatives of like 150 people who have those arguments.
Exactly.
That's what politics is for. Nobody has the final answer. And then by the time they do it, it's only going to at best last for like 5 years before it needs changed again. That's why we have a democracy, is because it's never finished. And
exactly.
People have gotten so... I think they're scared of these complicated answers that don't have a final solution. And so they try and...
Well, we can't use that word.
Oh,
Jesus, you Nazi.
But yeah, so they panic and they go, oh no, it really is just this simple. It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We've come up to just after 11:30 now. That means 2 hours and a half. I don't really want to carry on too much, simply because I don't really see the point of carrying on too much for people that are just turning in. I'm sorry, but you might want to rewatch the stream. We had a decent stream. But I only normally do 2 hours, but we had a long ass stream today, so it was quite decent to have a chat. I've got a little bit of housekeeping to do, but I'll use that as my final word. So, Mr. Crumple Point, I know you just finished making an excellent point, but would you like to do your final word, sir?
Sure. Well, thanks to CSG for having me on, as always. Never taken for granted and always appreciated. And if you're watching this, hope you've had a good time listening and we've been of some entertainment to you, and giving you some semblance of an honest coverage of it. We might not always be right, but we're always being honest, at least, which is more than I can say of the media. And I don't know, the theme tonight seems to be you need to really focus on the individuals in these stories. So every individual shark in the tornado has a story to tell. And, all these people that are being shamed for liking Tommy Robinson, and all these people that are being accused of rape, and all these people that are being falsely accused of rape, and all these people that are, when the accusation gets turned around and goes, oh, well, you're all making it up. We need to just take a minute to actually look at the face across from us and see a person and try and work out how they got where they are and be more sensible. And it's difficult, and we can't do it all the time. The world is very complicated. But the thing is, the alternative is that you just look at people like they're a commodity or a natural resource, and you don't see the people. And then you go, oh, I stand for compassion. And then you say, well, I stand against racism. And racism is institutional. And then a black guy stands up and says, well, I don't think so. And then you say, well, you're just racist too. It's like, well, you can't speak for black people and insult black people at the same time. That's ideology talking. Maybe listen to the guy, what he's got to say, and hear him out. And the 0 hours contract things, it's like, well, maybe they're not just evil capitalist pigs that are trying to do you out of a job. Maybe there's a reason they've got that. And yeah, so that's my final word. Just try and take people's individual circumstances into account. And thank you once again.
No problem. Thank you very much for coming on, and I much appreciate it as well. I really do appreciate everybody that actually turns up to watch and listen, or listen and watch. I don't know, whatever way you want to do it. But I do actually appreciate everybody that comes up. That's why I normally try and interact with people as much as possible. I am going to be changing my schedule quite a bit probably starting from not next week, but the Monday after. I'm probably going to change my schedule for doing videos when I can be bothered to, which will probably be almost every day, knowing me, because something normally pisses me off enough for me to do a video when I've got spare time. So I'm sure I'll do a video probably every day as I normally do. But my live streaming, I'm not too sure, and that might be a little bit erratic. But what I would like to do is I would like to do an open hangout stream on a Wednesday to invite anybody from my chat or anybody from my notifications or anybody from any sort of political Discord that wants to come on and just talk about anything, even if it's about conspiracy theories, even if it's about, I don't know, my mum's boot won't fit her foot. Anything at all. If you want to come on and want to talk to me about it, ask me any questions that you want, so on and so forth, and vice versa, then I'm going to start trying to do that for every Wednesdays. I'm going to try and add a couple of bits and pieces to my Patreon as well, because I don't actually have too many rewards for Patreon, to be fair, and it's a little bit confusing to me. So I'm going to add a little bit to that. But if anybody wants to add to Patreon or wants to set up a direct debit or anything to us, please do, because I really need the money and really need the help at the minute. But I'm not going to try and say that I really need anything, because I don't. But it would be helpful. It would be able to get me some better equipment for a start. I would really like to be able to buy a Photoshop. That would really be nice. So any sort of help that can would be most appreciative. But apart from me begging with my little beggar's bowl, I just wanted to say that thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. Thank you very much for taking the time to give me your points in the chat. Thank you very much for listening to me ramble on like I normally do and am. And with that being said, thank you very much to my guests. And I'll speak to you all. That's all, folks.